Well, hello everyone. It's KaiMo Films here, and it's a bit of a different episode. For one, it's pre-recorded, and two, it's an audio only. But three, I have a very special guest on what some people would call a show, but I probably wouldn't. I have Captain McKay Random on from Albany.
All the way from Albany, New York, all the way from a place where weather doesn't seem to make any sense. We had 70 degrees a couple days ago. Then it snowed, buried my whole car and everything. And now it looks like we're coming out of that. So
Well,
I'm happy to be indoors.
well, as a Minnesotan, I know exactly how you feel.
Yes.
Exactly how you feel. The For whatever reason, weather just is not kind to us. We have 70-degree weather, like you said, and then all of a sudden it just goes to below freezing. I mean, last year it was -60 with wind chill.
That's just obnoxious. That's like the earth just disrespecting us.
Exactly. I don't know how we survived. I think it's just our cold-blooded nature as Minnesotans, but
I'm glad you guys made it.
Oh yeah, me too. And the weird thing, it was 40 degrees the following week.
Like nothing ever happened.
Yeah, it just doesn't. I hate it.
That's what I tell myself every year, like the first real big snowfall that we get up here. I like have that conversation with myself about like, why do I still live here? Every year I tell myself I'm going to move, and this year I'm going to start looking. And then year after year I have that conversation, so I never do anything about it.
I think we all have that conversation.
Yeah.
So I have a couple questions here, and then I think we'll go after that into talking about the movies, and then I think we'll end it off with some figure talks.
Sounds good to me.
So these are just kind of easy questions. You don't have to think too hard. I know, at least for me, it's still 11:30, so it's still early for me. But I guess we'll start off with number one. What got you into animation?
Probably when I was a kid, like as far as stop motion stuff goes, when I was a kid, after school one day, my dad picked me up from the babysitters, and we had some time before anybody was going to need dinner or anything like that. So he put on the original King Kong and kind of explained to me how they made the special effects work. And for me, at like 4 or 5 years old, that blew my mind. And kind of at that moment, I think my love for giant monsters and for stop motion animation were both born. So as a sidebar, we actually just saw that in the theater right before this whole like kind of quarantine thing shut everything down. So that was a bucket list item for me.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
That I missed that. Like I had it planned in my calendar, and then the quarantine happened, or not quarantine, but the like 2-week suspension from school happened, just because of the whole disease and stuff. And the movie theater was like, we're not showing anything, and missed that.
I think let's see, my theater here shut down. I believe like the night after was the last night that they were showing anything, and after that they shut down. So I mean, on the one hand, it was like glad I got in under the radar there, because I would have been upset if I had to miss that. But they did, in my opinion, probably the right thing, like just keeping people out. I'm just glad it wasn't 2 days earlier.
Yeah. What series has influenced you the most, either like franchise or single like series?
That's an interesting question, because I mean, a lot of the stuff that I'm interested in just came from like hobbies and things that I had when I was younger. So I mean, I always used to watch the animated Batman series, Ninja Turtles before that, and around the same time as I was watching like the old Kong movie. One of my cousins a couple of years after that showed me some of the early Godzilla movies, and that was right up my alley because of the big monsters and everything. So there's this kind of pick and choose like between a bunch of franchises that I liked as a kid, and now there's so much more available. Because back then, I mean, this is the mid 90s, there was like nobody really had much to do with Godzilla in the United States at that point. So trying to explain what this was all about and show people, they just kind of really had no knowledge of it. At least not people my age anyway, in like elementary school. But yeah, so like I guess I was kind of inspired by all of it. That's why on my YouTube channel there's just so much different stuff going on. It's like the name Random, like that's not just there for no reason.
Yeah, it's just kind of a combination of everything.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I take a lot of interest in like comic books and cartoons and different things, like movies and stuff that I watched as a kid, and you know, pretty much expanded on it.
Mm-hmm. This one's just kind of a to get to know you, but you had a bad day at work. What do you do to make the day a little bit better?
Oh man, even after work, after leaving.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I usually like take it easy after work if I have just one of those kind of days. So like I'll come home. Usually I'll pop on like something to watch while I eat, like YouTube or whatever the case. Like a lot of the channels that I have in my subscription box, like it's pretty easy to find something new and something entertaining because like I have a lot of different things that post like, once or twice a week. But given the day, it's pretty much something new constantly.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of unwind and like other people's creativity kind of makes me just appreciate that a little bit, I guess. I'm like, well, at least, I couldn't do anything today, but this guy did that, and that's cool.
Awesome. Next question. When you animate, what do you listen to or watch or just put on in the background?
Typically, podcasts mostly. Like
Same.
my previous job, I used to be able to listen to podcasts just at work because I was pretty much by myself. I did retail and I was like up in the stock room, so I wasn't really around customers or anything, which meant I got to pretty much put on whatever I wanted and have headphones in and kind of keep to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got to become a fan of a lot of different podcasts. And now with the job I have now, I can't wear like headphones or anything. So it allows me to kind of like stockpile a bunch of like podcasts for like when the time comes for me to actually be able to animate. I got a whole list of stuff I haven't heard yet. I could just pick and choose and kind of let it rip.
Awesome. What podcasts do you listen to?
Let's see.
The Steve Austin Show?
I used to love Steve Austin Show, and I still revisit it from time to time. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of these pro wrestling ones. There's this guy named Conrad Thompson who has like 4 or 5 different podcasts with different like wrestling personalities from years ago. So some of those are very interesting. There's the Major Wrestling Figure podcast, which is like 2 pro wrestlers right now who are also like big time figure collectors. So they talk about like all the different wrestling toys that have come out over the years. Mm-hmm. And 616 Entertainment, obviously friends of mine.
Obviously.
Like every week, yeah, they're putting out something, so I get to listen to that. Yeah, it's a number of them. Like sometimes I'll just put on something totally new just to give it a shot and see if I like it.
Mm-hmm. Well, one podcast I recommend is the Rooster Teeth podcast. It's just kind of 4 people just hamming it up, and it's pretty funny.
I think I know Rooster Teeth's YouTube channel. I've seen it on and off over the years, so I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, they do Death Battle and Red versus Blue.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So those are their main like flagship series that they do. So that's kind of where I know them from. How many projects have you had to scrap or just completely redo?
Entire projects? That's the worst thing for me is like I don't consider anything scrapped. It's just I put it down and have never picked it up again. So I've got like
Collision.
Collision I finally did finish after like 2 years. And as it turned out, that was on the shorter side of like making people wait. If you like the X-Men project, like I promised a new episode like 4 years ago and it just hasn't happened yet. So let's see.
It has
so
to
that
be
I guess
long.
is it might, at this point might as well be. Let's see. That there was Commando 2, which I just haven't finished. It was just going to be a movie trailer for like a supposed sequel to the Arnold Schwarzenegger classic Commando.
Mm-hmm.
And there's really no excuse for that because that's mostly done. I just have to go back and finish it. But again, I just get distracted with other things. I think I was animating some Godzilla stuff at the same time, and I got really kind of like motivated to finish that. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I moved on to something else entirely and just kind of like skipped ahead. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there've definitely been a couple that haven't been finished yet.
Okay. How often do you go back and watch your old animations and are like, ugh, ooh, that's no, absolutely not.
Very recently, actually, I went back and did a little of that. I've had people tell me over the past like probably couple of years, like you should consider starting like a Patreon or something. And I'm like, I don't know who's going to pay me for like I don't have much else to offer besides what I put on YouTube, you know? And they're like, it'd be just kind of like extra. It wouldn't have to be anything like truly substantial. So I was like, maybe there's something to that. So I filmed a couple almost like reaction type videos of going back and watching older animations and then kind of like pausing it at points and explaining how I did things and why I did things the way I did. And I was like, this could be interesting if I ever potentially wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And what I also discovered is that like you don't realize how much you improve at something until you go back and see where you started. And so I went back and watched some of the early wrestling stuff I did. And as I'm watching it, I'm like, this is the first time I've watched this in probably like 5 years or longer. And it shows, you know, it's just, I mean, I guess I should say that it's good to see how far you've come. But yeah, I'm like, I think maybe I'm a little too critical too, because I'm looking at it, I'm like, how could I ever think this was that good? Like,
When you put the trailer for Rite of Passage up for, I think it was the Shawn Michaels and Chris Jericho like teaser on, I think it might have been Instagram or the Captain's Log. Like there's a huge difference from some of your earlier matches to the later ones, just in terms of the smoothness and even the frame rate. I think. I think
like what I remember about that is like, because I always try and like keep kind of a consistent story. Like there's a pretty loose continuity through all the wrestling stuff I've ever done, and as I go back and I'm like, I know this isn't the first time these two guys have connected, so let me go find the older stuff and show what led to this. And the farther back you go, kind of the worse the animation gets, and like the more beat up the figures are, and like just like the whole presentation of it hadn't quite been as polished yet. So kind of going back, I'm like, well, can I really use this? Like, is it going to affect? But I mean, I don't mind doing stuff like that because a lot of people that are watching it today were watching it back then too. So they're like, they might almost appreciate being like, hey, you know, you followed it for this long, and I want you to know that this wasn't all for nothing.
How do you feel when a shot or a full scene turns out exactly the way you want it?
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. And the problem is you can almost never tell that it's going to work out that way until after you've like done all the editing and all the like every effect and stuff that you want to add. Because there's times when like if you're using, for me, I'm using Dragon Frame now, and like if you go back and just play the frames, sometimes you're like, can this be salvaged? I don't know. But when you actually put it into your editing program and like time it out and speed it up and slow it down where it needs, and like you can kind of resurrect something that you might have thought was kind of dead. And those are the ones that I'm usually happiest about, because that means I don't have to go back and redo something.
But I hate that.
Yeah, I mean, there's one or two things in the Mortal Kombat one I'm working on now. There's like been one or two things that I've done probably 3 or 4 times, and I just wasn't happy with it because something was off, or like I left something in the shot that wasn't supposed to be there, and I had to go back and deal with that. And yeah, so when it works right the first time, I'm always very excited.
Do you think the best feeling is when you finish an animation or when you post the animation?
It's probably, for me, it's probably equal, because a lot of times the animations that I post, you know, some of them don't get a ton of real feedback or views or anything like that. It's more just like, I did it because I wanted to do it, so here it is, and if you want to watch it, great. But like, I think if I did this old YouTube and social media type stuff just for like views and hits, I'm definitely doing it the wrong way, because there's not a huge demand for stop motion animation in 2020, as I've come to find out. But it's a very like kind of niche type thing. But there's definitely like a kind of a rush that comes back when you post something that you've been like hyping for a while, and people are there to give you the feedback on it. I've always said, like with my channel, I've always said like there are certain people that I can count on that are going to watch the stuff that I put out because it's the same people that have been watching it for years. And like, so I know these people now, their names, and through doing like the live streams that I would do from time to time, like they'd be in there like chatting and like, I don't know, that to me is
not just putting like cool video or sweet in
yeah,
the
exactly.
comments.
Like stuff like that. Yeah. These are like, that to me is my audience, is the people that I can interact with daily or weekly or whatever the case. Like the rest is just, it's cool to see, new viewers come on board, but like I pretty much know at this point who my audience is, and if it grows, great.
Mm-hmm. And then, what do you think are the best figures to animate, at least, in your opinion?
I've had a lot of fun lately with the Storm Mortal Kombat stuff, the ninjas. I I really liked the Monster Arts when I was doing the Godzilla project some time ago.
Those are nice.
Yeah, I mean they're really easy to work with because a lot of them are so like bottom heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So they won't. Yeah, Godzilla's not going to tip over in the middle of a scene. That's just not going to happen. So like you don't have to worry about a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
I've enjoyed Mattel's like wrestling stuff. They're a little bit limited, but with camera angles and different things, you can kind of get around it.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I've actually wanted to try that I really haven't done much of yet is the Figure Arts Dragon Ball stuff because they move around really well, but I just haven't really ever gotten the chance to see how they animate yet.
Mm-hmm. I like animating with the figure arts. I've done a couple animations, some that have made it to YouTube and some that haven't. But the hardest part for me is switching out the hands on those, because the hand or the peg, it's not a soft plastic like the Storm collectibles, which are I think the best figures in that respect. But
Yeah, definitely.
the hand on figure arts is hard plastic, the joint is hard plastic, and the ball and socket is hard plastic, and it just sucks because you have to do 100 pounds just to pull off the hand. But then with the Storm collectibles, you just have to flick it and it falls off, and it's just it's so nice to animate with.
Yeah, that's the one thing I will say in Storm's favor is like they've made it really easy with like the softer, like almost rubbery, more pliable plastic to like switch hands on and off, and it's very easy to do. With like heads too, if you got figures with like the spare, like the different heads with different expressions, it's really smooth, really seamless. I'm trying to think, Monster Arts wise, the only figures I have with like swap out hands is probably like maybe the first Burning Godzilla.
Yeah.
And
the birth version.
Yeah, I don't actually have that. My roommate does, but
okay.
Yeah, the same. Yeah, it's the same sculpt. But yeah, I don't even think I swapped the hands in Aftermath because I'm just like, it's not like the hands aren't noticeably that different anyway, and he's not going to be like grabbing anything in this video, so I don't really need much.
Mm-hmm.
And Kong, I guess too, but like I've never animated with that Kong, so.
Mm-hmm. How's the Mezco Kong? I know you did a review on it, but I was hesitant to get it at G-Fest, and I just ended up skipping on it.
I really like it, but I noticed like some people have had the issue with like the knee breaking.
Yeah.
I've fixed mine, but as far as just the figure goes, if you can avoid a break, I really do like it. It looks great. It's like kind of I don't know, like a stylized version of the 33. It looks like. I know it's supposedly based on like a comic book or something, but to me, it's passable enough as like a stylized version of the 33 because Mezco, I believe this is Mezco for years, has done almost these like cartoon animated versions of characters. So there was like a Miami Vice line some years ago where like Crockett and Tubbs were made to look like, like caricatures almost. And to me, Mezco is good at that. Mm-hmm. And Kong has enough accessories where like it's worth I think it was like $40 and the sculpt is great. You're not going to get a ton of poses from him, but it's passable.
I think I commented on your video that it gave me a ton of NECA vibes, just the disc joints and the type of articulation they used. Like it reminded me of NECA.
Yeah, there is a lot of similarity there, especially because NECA's not afraid to use a lot of plastic in their figures, and Kong is noticeably heavier than pretty much any figure arts figure just because he's solid and it's a bulky figure. That and he stands a little taller than the average figure arts. So scale wise, I pointed out, it's probably not going to be what you want. If you are looking for like a Kong versus Godzilla type display, you might need that light up Godzilla, the taller one, to make it like work. But I'm just a figure standalone piece. I like it. I think my bias as a Kong fan in general is going to make me pretty much like any Kong. So, my comments are to be taken with as much salt as you can spare, I suppose.
Well, before we move on to the next question, my cat wants to come into the room, so hang on.
All right.
Well, come on, you doofus. Professionalism.
I remember back during the days when I used to be able to stream every week. I remember that door would fly open, cat would march in
Take
every
the
week.
broom and push the door closed.
That's what it was. Yep, we had a real professional setup here in Apartment 9.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of cats, how is Hellhammer and Mountain Man?
Well, Hellhammer's good. I don't know, she's wandering around here today. She's got no use to be kicking doors open, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Mountain Man's good. He's one of the people who's lucky enough to be blessed with an essential job, so he's at work today. I get to go back on Friday. I actually took vacation this week, like months ago. I put in, so I'm not. I don't have to be back at work till a couple days from now. But yeah, I picked a good time, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So this next question is a bit more movie based. Actually, these next few. What is your go-to game and movie, or movie?
Let's see. Lately, I mean, I just bought the new Doom, so that's been what I've really been into the past couple days. Mm-hmm. Prior to that, I used to play a lot of the Mortal Kombat 11, Dragon Ball Kakarot it's a fun one. That's like a more mellow game where you can pretty much just explore and go find different like little side things. You don't even have to progress the story. You'll still have a good time.
Is it sort of like build like Arkham Knight, where you have a bunch of different side missions?
There's elements to that. Yeah. I mean, it's not quite as like action packed if you're straying from the main story. Like if you stay on course with the story, you're going to do nothing but kind of fight and progress everything. But as you're doing like side stuff, it's just little quests. But yeah, a little bit, I guess, like Arkham Knight.
Okay.
Movie wise, that's a good question. I don't have a ton of things that I'll like religiously go back and watch. I recently kind of like got into Batman the Animated Series again, just because a friend of mine for Christmas, he got like the Blu-ray collection, so he just sent me the he sent me the digital code, so I've been able to like just watch and just appreciate some of that again in much better quality than probably I've ever seen before. Mm-hmm. It's amazing how well they can clean up a show like that from all those years ago, just like to present it in high def today.
I mean, it's kind of the same thing with the Star Wars. Like, I grew up with the VHS, the last VHS release with like the Darth Vader, the Stormtrooper, and Yoda. Yeah.
That was the last time they released it before the special editions. I think I had the same ones.
Mm-hmm. And every time it would open up with Leonard Maltin. It was like, "Hi, I'm Leonard Maltin. Like, come on, get to the Star Wars." But yeah, those are pretty grainy now. Just after 16 years of wear and tear, or at least 16 years. And now I have a DVD box set of the original trilogy, and I watched it, and it was the edits, the George Lucas edits.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it was the first time I ever watched them, and I was like, these are ass now. The scene where, obviously, I think the most famous is Jabba the Hutt, but then also when Greedo is talking to Han, and he like jerks his head away. Oh man.
Oh yeah.
I was looking out for that, and it happened, and I was like, this is as good as the over 9,000.
This is, like that. To this day, I never understood why they went back and did that. Like, there's a logic to it that they'll tell you, like, well, Han's a good guy, and good guys don't just murder people in the bar. I'm like, well, Han, at that point, isn't really a good guy. Like,
he's just kind of neutral.
He's doing his thing because he's like, well, I gotta, defend myself and not get killed, like, for this bounty hunter, but I also got to get this money for the bounty hunter. He's just basically like making ends meet at that point. Like, but yeah, hey, whatever the case. Like, I mean, the DVDs I have of Star Wars now, I got probably like 10 years ago. They were like, I don't know, you could buy them each individually, and they were like the special editions that were like really cleaned up. but as a bonus feature on like the second disc, it just had the theatrical cut. So you were basically paying whatever the amount of the DVD was for the
Two versions.
the bonus. Yeah, for the bonus disc, basically for me, because like that's what I would go back and watch.
Is yours in a tin can or like a tin box thing?
No, these are just regular DVD cases. Like I don't know, they may have gotten re-released with over the years. I'm not too sure.
Okay, because
But
the one I have is the same thing. It's got a bonus disc on the in the box.
and that has the theatrical cuts on it.
Yep.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. So like if I'm gonna put on the Star Wars trilogy, like the original ones, that's usually what I put on.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't done that in a few years, but yeah, it's just nice to have the option because I mean, so many different versions exist now, and I heard even like Disney Plus like a few months ago or whatever it was like changed it even further again.
Oh
So
my god, those movies have been through hell already.
yeah, I don't know what at this point they could even add. Like by the time they're done, it's going to be a completely different movie than it was in 1977.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it already is, but you know,
Yeah, there's
I can't stand it. What is your guilty pleasure movie?
let's see. Guilty pleasure is see it's tough for me to nail down guilty pleasures because I don't like feel bad about a lot of the stuff I like.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I guess the easiest things to say would be something like Mortal Kombat Annihilation or the yeah, some of the Godzilla movies that have not been great, but
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy for different reasons. And like as I look at my movie lineup over here, like I don't think Batman and Robin counts because like I don't think I like that movie, but I can at least appreciate it for its absurdity.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like a few different things like that.
Yeah, that it's the same thing for me. I can't find anything that I feel guilty over, like you said, and just can't really pinpoint one thing. I mean, maybe Final Wars because that's my favorite Godzilla. So maybe Final Wars because a lot of people don't like that. So I've been finding more and more people that actually like Final Wars.
Do you think that's just because it's been out and people have kind of gotten used to the fact that it's different and they go into it being like, this is going to be completely removed from everything else. It's just its own thing.
I think part of that. It's kind of like the same thing with the '98. It's over time. Like when it came out, it was super divisive, or completely trashed on. But then over the years, it's gotten sort of a cult following. Like people have accepted it more. So I think it's the same thing with Final Wars.
That makes sense. One of the big things I've heard about '98 in recent years is like, as a movie, it holds up, it's fine, but putting Godzilla as the name just is what made people really kind of like, nah, like, see, now you've gone too far.
Mm-hmm. I was on another live stream the other day, and someone said the exact same thing. As soon as you put the name Godzilla on it, there's this level of expectation on it that has to be met in order for the base minimum amount of people to enjoy it. And even King of the Monsters wasn't a critical darling, as they say, but people still liked it because it was a Godzilla movie.
I remember when that first came out and people were like kind of afraid that the critical response was going to like tank the movie, but like among Godzilla fans, like it was generally pretty well liked. And I, thinking about it, I'm like, well, what did these critics expect? Like, had they never seen a Godzilla movie? Like, you don't go into a Batman movie and be upset that Batman's in it.
Yeah.
Like it's, I don't know. To me, like movie critics is kind of an aside here, but a movie critic is probably the most hack job you could get because it's there's no way that you can ever be wrong. And even if you're, quote unquote wrong 99% of the time, there's still going to be some guy out there that just swears that your opinion is the best. And like, it's like being a weatherman, you could be wrong every day, but you'll still have a job the next day. Yeah. And to me, that makes it just, I don't know. I need a job like that where I can just like throw a dart at a board and be like, that's what I'm going to tell people today.
I've never heard a film critic be compared to a weatherman. That's a perfect analogy. I think I'm going to take that.
Proud of that. You should spread it around.
Will do. What franchise were you a big fan of, but over the years have just kind of tapered off from that franchise?
Let's see. I mean, as a kid, I liked Ninja Turtles a lot. Like, I would watch the cartoon all the time, and then like I got older and like it just kind of like fell off of it.
Mm-hmm.
And lately, I mean, I'm collecting all the figures and buying all this stuff again, and I really do appreciate the franchise and a lot of the stories and everything. But like, that's just kind of like it's a lot of nostalgia, but it's also a lot of appreciation for like the new kind of like rebirth of Ninja Turtles in society.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of. Trying to think if there's anything that like I just don't like now that I used to like, and yeah, I can't really come up with anything because a lot of the things that I still there's elements of things that I still like about maybe things from years ago, but then like more recently I just haven't gotten as into it for whatever reason. Like pro wrestling, I think is a great example
Mm-hmm.
because I used to watch wrestling, I don't know, like 98 until about 2003 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
I was like watching every week and keeping up with like who was holding the titles and who was fighting at the next show and this and that. And then I just kind of became disinterested.
Yeah,
And that's pretty
for me it's
where it
Star
is.
Wars.
That's a good one too. Like Star Wars, like I'm not going to say that I don't like it now, but it's I definitely am not the level of fan that I was prior to like let's say the Phantom Menace coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And I even held on to my fandom like all through the prequels, to be honest with you. Like I enjoyed things about each of the prequel movies when I was watching them. I think partly because I was trying to justify in my head, like, oh well, this will all pay off. This will all be good. And then I didn't. Yeah, I told myself no such lies with these modern movies. You know, the recent ones.
Mm-hmm.
And to their credit, I think I liked them more because I went in with no expectations. Like Star Wars fans, and now I'm on a roll with this, but Star Wars fans like really did not like the previous movies, and for a lot of reasons I can see why. But then the things that they're complaining about, if they would just stop and like think logically for a second, these wouldn't be issues at all. But because they're Star Wars fans and things have to be spelled out like
Nothing
to the
can
letter.
change.
Yeah, exactly. I remember thinking like when I was first reading the most recent Rise of Skywalker, the most recent like feedback, I guess I would say, from these fans is that like certain story elements didn't make any sense, and how did this happen when we just watched this?
Mm-hmm.
But it was dumb stuff. It was like, well, how did Kylo Ren get to the Emperor's palace when we saw Rey steal his ship in the previous fight scene? I'm like, if you would just think for one moment that Kylo Ren is like the grand dictator of the entire like republic, he could probably get on the phone and call somebody, be like, listen, I need 2 pilots and 2 ships. One of you guys is going to leave the ship for me, and you're going to go back with your friend, and I'm going to take this ship.
Mm-hmm.
It's simple. It's done. But it's a 2.5-hour movie, so why would you put that in there? And if they had put that in there, people would be like, oh, it interferes with the pace of the movie. So, I mean, you can't make Star Wars fans happy. And that's kind of my overarching thing with Star Wars right now is like they love to overthink, but they hate thinking.
That is perfect. Oh, that I'm gonna steal that too.
You can have that and the Weatherman thing. That's fine. Those are my gifts.
Thank you. What do you think is the worst quality a movie can have?
Probably blandness.
Yeah.
Like if a movie's great, then you can enjoy it. If a movie is awful but is interesting in how awful it is, then you can still enjoy it. And if it's just boring, if it offers nothing of note at all, if it's not even one of the things that you think about, like if it's totally forgettable, I guess is just probably about the worst thing that a movie can have.
Mm-hmm. That's perfect. What's his name? Joel Schumacher movies, Batman movies.
Mm-hmm.
I think are like they're enjoyable to watch because they're so cartoony and over the top. At least Batman and Robin is.
Yeah.
That it's memorable. It's so like I can rewatch it because it's so bad. But then a movie we'll talk about later, the Jeff Bridges Kong, like that is just forgettable.
Yeah.
That I rewatched it yesterday because I hadn't seen it in 6 years, and the only thing I remembered differently was Duan and World Trade Center. I should probably stop there because we're going to talk about it later. But it's just forgettable, and I think the blandness, like you said, is probably the worst thing a movie can be. Oh, wait, Terminator Salvation, too. It's so bland. Like, it's so gray tone. It's ugly to look at.
Which one? Is that the Christian Bale one?
Yeah.
All right, that's perfect, because I know for a fact I saw it opening weekend, and I couldn't tell you a thing about it.
That's probably the worst movie I've seen in a while.
That's the thing where the Schwarzenegger Terminator shows up at the end for like a CGI fight.
Yeah, I mean, I was fine with that. That was kind of a cool scene, because I watched the behind the scenes on that, how they did the Arnold scene, but that movie was just bland and boring. Probably will never watch it again.
That's kind of what that falls in perfectly with the point we're making here, is that, like, if the only thing I can remember is basically a callback to a better movie for nostalgia purposes, then it's kind of failed on its own merits.
Yeah. Just awful. What is your favorite movie genre, and why?
Oh, let's see. Well, I don't know. Probably action, I guess, is safe to say, because you could be over the top and it's just allowed. Mm-hmm. Like, nobody is going to question why Arnold can do all this stuff, or why Bruce Willis or whoever, because you just have to go in with, like, okay, this guy, he stands above everybody else as far as what he's what he can do, mm-hmm. and what he's expected to do. And that's partly, I guess, that ties into like video games too. So, like I mentioned, I've been playing Doom, and it's like, there's no way any of this ever. Yeah. But it's like, but you're the Doom Slayer, so you can do all this, and it's just a day at the office for you. Mm-hmm. So, like, yeah, just like, I don't know. Action it's allowed to be fun. It's allowed to be silly and just completely not take itself seriously.
I think action can also mesh well with other genres, because it can be dramatic, it can be intense, it could be like suspenseful, it could be comedic. I think action is probably the most versatile genre.
You can insert action into basically anything, and as long as you don't totally change the tone of it, it works. So yeah, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, what is your least favorite movie genre, and why?
Well, I think musicals are going to take a hard bottom.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if it wasn't for Pitch Perfect, like, it would be like I would hate all of them. Mm-hmm. But I guess, going back to guilty pleasures, I suppose those movies are funny, so I like those. But like, besides, like, I don't know, musicals have never stood out to me as being enjoyable, and they're everywhere now. Oh, There's like this, Cats came out, and like all this other stuff. I'm like, is this like a thing? People are trying to revive these like Broadway shows and make big budget like movies out of them. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's not for me.
I think I'm going to have to agree with you on musicals, or maybe rom-coms. I don't like rom-coms, but I'm going to have to agree with you on musicals. Hairspray, a little bit of Sound of Music. The only one I can really watch is Phantom of the Opera.
Oh, okay. I mean, that at least has some like more interesting thematic elements to it.
Yeah.
It's not just like Grease, for example, where like guy likes girl and they're gonna sing on top of a car and all this nonsense.
Mm-hmm. So then the next few questions are a little bit more figure-based, something, I mean, we've both been contributing, but something we can contribute even more to. What is the main figure line that you collect?
I
think I probably already know, but
I'm trying to think now. Yeah, like, I mean, my main focus is like, I mean, I've focused a lot on the store Mortal Kombat stuff.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, that's probably the one that, like, if I had to drop every other line for some reason, that's probably what I would continue to buy. Mm-hmm. I mean, Godzilla lines, both Monster Arts and NECA, have been, by and large, mostly very good over the past couple of years, especially. NECA was very hit and miss early on, and there have been a couple Monster Arts that I haven't really been in love with, but lately both companies have been putting out pretty good figures.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrestling, like, I don't collect as many as I used to. I'll buy like a handful every year, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
Marvel Legends has been great, but I'm an X-Men guy, so like if it's not an X-Men character, I probably don't have much interest.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think Mortal Kombat is probably going to take the top spot.
Yeah, I was gonna say when I was writing this question down, I was like, I probably already know this, but I just need clarification or verification. Have you ever felt buyer's remorse after buying a figure?
Ah,
Because I definitely have.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, we might actually have common ground here. That the King Ghidorah, the Monster Arts one,
Oh my gosh, get out.
it's not, it's not, it's not like a remorseful. I don't regret owning it. As I look at it on the shelf, I have him fighting the red Godzilla that NECA put out, and it looks pretty cool. But I know I'm never going to get it to look any different than that right now because it just doesn't have that mobility that, yours is looking slightly over to the left as I see. Like mine is looking kind of down and centered. But besides his necks, you're not going to get a ton out of him.
I mean, yeah, I'll move aside a little bit, but you can. It's not set up right now because I'm animating, and all my buildings are on my table. But it's the King of the Monsters display, and that's kind of really, like you said, all you can really get with Ghidorah. And I think in your review you mentioned that the wings are always in a battle pose or like a action pose, and they're never going to be able to be neutral unless you mod it and put like a fabric membrane and all that stuff.
I've seen people do amazing like custom stuff with that, but I mean, yeah, like for the price that it probably would have put the figure at for them to do it, like I understand why they didn't, but I mean at the same time, don't put it in the Monster Arts line. Put it in like the like a statue or something.
Yeah. Have you seen that new Ghidorah figure? I don't know what the company is, but the wingspan is like 6 feet, and the height of the figure is I think 4.5 feet.
I don't think I have, but I'm gonna have to take a look.
Because that thing, it's like it's $2,000, but that thing is amazing. It's beautiful to look at. Like
I got to take a look.
It's like X plus on steroids. How often do you just sit around and pose your figures?
That's a pretty regular thing for me. Like usually if I'm on the couch watching like YouTube or something, like at pretty much any point there's like a figure within grabbing distance that I'll sit and I'll mess with. Usually it's like some of my newest stuff I'll just keep at the couch just so I can pose it around and see what I can do with it. Mm-hmm. So like over the past like week or 2 weeks or whatever, like I had the Ultimate Edition Shawn Michaels over there, the wrestling figure. I had the black costume Storm from Marvel Legends. Mm-hmm. There's one or two like NECA Godzilla figures nearby that are just like, I think the 62 and my roommate's 64. They're just fun to pose around and just, I don't know, just something to keep your hands busy. It's like the fidget spinners kind of thing. Like I have no use for that because I'm messing with action figures, but it's basically the same concept, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I do the same thing. I just like carry one around, generally Godzilla, but I just carry around like the Ermac I have, or like I don't know, just one of my NECA figures. Just carried around, posed a little bit.
Yeah, the 2014 Godzilla from NECA used to get kind of carried around the apartment a lot. Just put him down and like sit there and pose him around, mess with him.
That was my first ever like super articulated figure, so I have kind of a lot of nostalgia for that.
I'm looking at it across the room and it still holds up. I always thought NECA did a good job with that one.
I just wish it wasn't as glossy.
Yeah, he does look like he just kind of like came out of the water.
I guess that would be a cool effect, but it'd be kind of jarring to have the NECA come out of the water and then have like the monster arch, a completely different sculpt. And
yeah.
But yeah, that's like you said, that still holds up. It hasn't shown much age.
Yeah, I mean, I actually like side by side with NECA's version of the King of the Monsters one. I still prefer the 2014 version. Mm-hmm. The King of the Monsters one is a good sculpt, and like there's certain little paint things that haven't aged, well, not even aged, but just like right when the figure came out, it was like, yeah, what's going on with his face though? Like, but they've, in my opinion, they've made up for it with the burning version and the what do you call it? Like the atomic breath version, I think looks good. I don't have one, but everyone I've seen has looked pretty good.
Yeah, I got mine from a comic shop, and it was $30, and it was like a month ago I got it, so it had been out for a while, and every Target I went to was sold out. And then I went to Target last week, and I saw it, and it was like the regular retail, like $20, and I was like, son of a bitch. But yeah, check your Target. I know you're in semi-quarantine, but
Yeah.
Target has been restocking all of their NECA Godzillas. Like right now they have, at least at my Target, they have the all King of the Monsters except for the Burning Godzilla, and then the Shin Godzilla in the new box, and then the Burning Godzilla in the new box.
Okay.
As well as the 64.
The last one of the last times I went through Target, I did see they had the new Shin and the new Burning 95 version. Like I don't plan on getting those just because I prefer the monster arts that are already here in the apartment. But like it's cool that they're available again because I know there were people that like those and wanted to grab them.
Yeah, I don't have the Burning Godzilla or Shin monster arts, namely because Shin just had a whack release because it was like a Japan exclusive, and it was just messy. And then I just missed out on the Burning Godzilla. So
Yeah, that's the thing. Like when they did the re-releases, you would expect like, oh, okay, well this will balance out the value and make it a little bit more obtainable for people who missed it. But then now, if you look, like the re-release is probably going for more money than the original version.
yeah, on Amazon, the original version, Burning, is I think a little over or just around 200.
Wow.
And then the what do they call it? The Ultimate Edition with the smoke effects is somewhere around 350 to 400.
Unreal. That's crazy.
So it's in one of your videos, I keep citing your videos, but hobby like action figure collecting is kind of a pain because it's expensive when it comes out, but you'll be paying up the ass if you don't get it when it comes out.
That's part of the worst part of it. It's like, when I got, especially with like monster arts where the value can increase almost overnight. I bought
Like a door.
when I bought my Burning Godzilla, it was like an Amazon warehouse deal, so it was like $80. The box was beat up or whatever, but I didn't care because it was complete, had the hands, had like the 2 tanks it came with. And at that point it started skyrocketing, and I was like, wow, okay. So if I can impart any wisdom to anybody listening that wants to buy monster arts, check Amazon warehouse deals. Years ago when Mecha Ghidorah was going up in price, I got one for like $130 or something because like one of the metal things on top of his center head was like broken off, and to look at it you wouldn't even notice it, or you could just as easily like modify something and fix it.
Take a toothpick.
But yeah, exactly. For the price, like you can't be mad at that. But and as I look over there, I see like Millennium Godzilla that I paid like $90 for, that was like $230 for a time, and like the 2005 Kong that's whatever price it is now, and
the Curious.
Get them if you yeah, especially
that is easily the worst bit of this gig we're doing.
Yeah, you just pray for those re-releases. I'm waiting for just any kind of Biollante re-release. I'll take it.
There you go.
Like, give me a poster colors or something. That's the only reason I have like Destroya, because I had to wait for some kind of a remake, and they did eventually do it, which was nice.
With Biollante, it'd be so easy. They already have the molds. They already have the sculpts. All they have to do is preferably take out the light up feature, because I'm not a huge fan of that. But they could easily sell it again for like, what was it, $180 when it came out, and it's like, just do that again and you'll make an ass ton of money.
Yeah, probably. And that's not even like price wise, that's not even unheard of now, because the prices like of King Ghidorah was like 200 or whatever it was. So it's it's a fair price for Biollante, especially because they're so big on the Heisei stuff. I wonder why they haven't, honestly, because that's
They've
everything,
re-released everything in the Heisei.
pretty much everything else they've made has gotten some kind of a poster colors or repaint or premium something, you know?
I think the only one that hasn't is Rodan, because
Oh, yeah, yeah.
the Ghidorah got released twice, Mecha Godzilla twice, Space Godzilla twice, Destroya twice, and
Hmm.
Godzilla multiple times in various colors. I think the only one that hasn't gotten re-released is Rodan and Biolante.
Yeah, I forgot because didn't they show like a standard kind of brown Rodan at one point and it just never got released?
Yeah, Bandai does that a lot. I hate it.
Oh, yeah. No, I
Like,
remember. Yeah, it was the same with like the Dragon Ball figures. Like they showed Nappa like years and years ago.
oh, that
And
thing
then,
looked awful though.
yeah, no, I'm not like, I agree with you. I'm glad that the Nappa that we ended up getting was much, much better.
hmm
But yeah, they like to just throw things out there and then never release them. Like they had an awesome Shredder from Ninja Turtles that just never saw the light of day.
They, oh, that's right. They did do a Ninja Turtles line. I forgot about that.
Yeah, they only made it to the four turtles and it didn't sell well. But like, I don't know. I guess they just gave up.
I think that's what
Just
they
as
did for with the WWE license they had.
Yeah, I think they only got out like five figures, and they showed there was like two more or one more that was coming, and just never
Didn't happen.
happened. Now you can go on Ringside and pretty much get the whole wave for like $70 for all five figures or whatever it was.
That's not bad.
It's yeah, I mean you could just go pick like I think the first three are like under like $10-15 a piece.
That is actually really good. I saw the Rock, the Figure Arts Rock at a comic book shop for $25, and I wasn't gonna get it, but I was like, for one, this is smaller than I thought, and I was kind of surprised by it because on Amazon it's like when it came out it was like $60, but to see it for $25 at a comic shop, which normally upsells it for like $5 or $10, it's like, oh,
Yeah,
odd.
that's the thing too. Like wrestling collectors are particular about things like scale. So like they didn't I guess they didn't really go for these figures right off the jump because they didn't want smaller figures than the ones they were already getting from like Mattel and everyone else. It's like when was it Toy Fair recently when they first showed like the AEW figures that are like for the brand new promotion and everything. The first thing they all wanted to know is like, yeah, but does it scale with the Mattel stuff? Because I'm not getting it if it doesn't. I'm like, it's a totally different line. Like on the one hand, like it doesn't need to, like it's its own thing and it should be probably treated as such. But on the other hand, this is
Makes
Jazzwares
sense.
now. Yeah, like you have a built-in audience if you just scale it to what's already out there. You're pretty much going to guarantee that people will buy your product if you do kind of follow the parameters that have already been established. And as it turns out, they did. And there's a lot of people that are kind of like breathing sighs of relief now because they can put their AEW guy in the same ring as a WWE elite and it's going to look decent.
Yeah, the McFarland Mortal Kombat is the same scale as the Storm stuff, which is a really smart move on
Yeah, I mean,
McFarlane's part.
yeah, I agree. I mean, I have Johnny Cage set up with some of the other ones, and he's not like, I wouldn't say he's perfect. He's, I think, a little tall, but it's not like overwhelmingly noticeable. Like if you put him by like, Goro, for instance, Goro's still going to dwarf him
Oh
and
yeah,
he's going to be, yeah, it's going to look reasonable. So I do like that they did that.
and just a little bit of posing and camera angles, it'll be good.
Oh yeah. If you're doing any kind of like photography or animating or something, you'll be able to make it work easily.
What is the crowning piece in your collection, or pieces if you can't pick one?
Ah, wow. Let's see. I mean, I only own two Hot Toys figures, which is the '89 Batman and Joker,
Those are
and
good.
I love those, and I'm glad I got them because that's one of those things that goes up in value too if you don't jump on it. And that was it. That's all I needed for Hot Toys because they will get very expensive very quickly. So
Yeah.
I tapped out right after that. But I'd probably probably those honestly. If I had to narrow it down to like one or two figures, those are the probably the nicest like showpieces.
Just like statuesque.
Yeah,
X Plus is kind of the Hot Toys of Godzilla, and the two I have, which is the '84 and '04, I like
Oh,
those a lot.
nice.
I like those a lot.
My roommate has the I think it's a 12-inch X Plus of Gigantus, and the
Oh,
thing is like bang on accurate to the movie, which is like he likes that design because that was like the first Godzilla movie that he ever saw, so he's kind of like drawn to that.
mm-hmm.
And like on the one hand, it's like, oh wow, of all the Godzillas, that's the one you pick, because like being 100% movie accurate for something that is kind of a little, hasn't
Goofy.
quite found its footing yet. Yeah, but I mean, at the same time though, it's awesome too for that very reason. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're not trying to change what it is. They're like, this is what you watch the movie. This is what you're gonna get. So we're gonna put every detail into this figure. X Plus is really great at that, from what I've seen.
One thing I want to do, I meant to do it last summer, but I just didn't, is make small dioramas for the X Plus.
That could be cool. Yeah, like
Because the poses they're in are not exact like screenshots of the movie. I think the Yuji Sakai, which is like the super expensive one, are more like take a screenshot from the movie and that's what they'll make. The ones I have are less, I guess, photo ish. I don't.
gotcha.
So it could easily fit in a couple different dioramas, but yeah, it's something like a weekend or week project that would be fun to do.
Just add to the overall display value of it.
Mm-hmm. And then our final question of the evening: when is X-Men Brotherhood and the Aftermath sequel happening? It's been too damn long, Cap.
You're telling me. Yeah, the X-Men one, I have no idea. That's the kind of thing, and I've always kind of fallen back on this excuse, if you will. But X-Men takes a lot longer because there's a lot more people involved with like the voices and a lot of the different things that I have to get from other people.
Mm-hmm.
Aftermath, ideally, I would have loved to have something ready for the release of Godzilla versus Kong, Godzilla related, so I could just ride that wave and hop on all the hashtags and share it around. I mean, realistically, I still got months and months to do something.
Yeah, that
And
delay helped.
Who knows if they're even going to, delay it again with everything going on right now? I have no idea. But yeah, so I do have most of the Aftermath follow-up written, actually. I just have to finish what I'm doing now, which realistically, I'm kind of like in the home stretch, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, after that, yeah. I mean, anything's possible. I'd like to do more Godzilla stuff because I had a lot of fun with Aftermath, and I have a pretty cool idea that I think, I don't know, I like it for the follow-up.
Mm-hmm. Well, that concludes the question portion of this. That went a lot longer than I was expecting. But,
I talk a lot. That's my fault.
Hey, it's all the better for the podcast or the KaiMoCast or whatever. So, for those who didn't catch on, the main portion of this is just talking about some movies that are kind of not as fondly remembered, but still semi-enjoyable to watch. And we have a couple on deck. We have the 1998 Godzilla with Matthew Broderick, a classic, beloved by all. The Jeff Bridges Kong, which is forgettable. And then King Kong Lives. Have you seen King Kong Lives, by the way?
Not in years, but yeah, I've seen it.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure so I wasn't just like talking. You just be like,
Yeah, sounds good.
King Kong Lives is even more forgettable, but and then
Yeah, I'm on the same page with you there.
And then I had to go to Michigan to get it, but Mortal Kombat Annihilation as well, which was a gem, an absolute diamond, ruby, gem, whatever of a movie.
Yeah, a lot to break down in that one.
Oh yeah. So Cap, you're the guest. What do you want to start off on?
I guess we can start in. We can go chronologically. We can cover the Kong stuff, go to '98 Godzilla, and then end with the. Although I guess Annihilation might have been before Godzilla, but whatever.
I keep thinking about the scene in the desert where what's his name, Jax, is fighting the monster, and I was
Oh
just
God.
laughing my ass off because it was
Yeah.
PS2 level, or not even PS2, N64 levels of graphics.
Yeah. Big monster just appearing in the desert.
Christ Almighty, that was great.
Yep.
So, first to come out, if since we're doing it chronologically, was King Kong. This was released by Dino De Laurentiis. He was the producer. So, Cap, what do you have to say about that movie?
Well, I might actually fondly remember it more so than you do, just because it was one of the things like when I was younger, I saw it, and because it was Kong, and because I was young, I watched it a lot and I liked it. And I can definitely concede that it's nowhere near as good as other Kong movies, and it's got a lot of things about it that were,
except for one. It's better than one, but
well, yeah. I mean, I guess we'll get to that, but it's one of those that like there are things about it that I do appreciate, but not for the reasons of like being quality. Um, some of the things I did like about it, like they did the best they could with the effects work, and Kong for the most part looks pretty good, like makeup and costume wise. But I think that's down to Rick Baker being good at what he does. Um, they did a decent enough job, like updating the story and making it more contemporary at the time.
yeah, the
Because
oil aspect instead of the film aspect was pretty a good update.
yeah, I mean, like there was at the time. I don't know how much looking into any of this you've done, but I had a whole book that I read about all this Kong stuff. And at the time, there was kind of a bidding war between Universal and Paramount, and Universal was just going to do a straight remake of the 33, and Paramount wanted to do their contemporary one, which is the one that wound up happening. So I think the thing was they both kind of started planning a movie at around the same time, and it became a race to see who could get it done first, which is why certain things got rushed, and we wound up kind of with a very unpolished movie.
That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah, I mean, like all the action stuff on the island is just basically non-existent. So you don't have Kong fighting dinosaurs, and you don't have the guys like trying to run away from being ambushed by these monsters or anything like that. You just have Kong fights a big rubber snake and breaks it in half, and that's what you get.
At least they did something. The this movie, I didn't notice this before because I was like 10 when I saw it last. But there are a lot of scenes that are just shot for shot remakes, like the scene where I was about to say Anne, but the scene where Dwan goes through the gates and is put on the like the stand or the harness or whatever.
Altar thing that they have, yeah.
Yeah, that is a shot for shot remake of the original movie. And it's like, why? Just have it be its own thing. I mean, the Jackson Kong, well, not a perfect movie. I still find it enjoyable. It was very unique, and I think that's how a remake should be done. Just make it unique.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of issues with Peter Jackson's version, but like, yeah, I will say, like, at least it set out to do kind of its own thing with the source material, and it's obvious that Peter Jackson really liked Kong and really wanted to do something different with it. So I can't fault him for that. I just didn't really like a lot of the directions the movie took. But yeah, the 77 version, like, I mean, renaming the characters and stuff like that, I was totally fine with it because you're updating it and you're kind of doing something different.
It's
does
like Dawn, but switched around so you'd remember it.
Dwan, yeah, which makes it much easier to forget because you don't have any point of reference. Oh, Dwan, like what? like nothing. So yeah, I mean, Jeff Bridges I liked in the role because he's generally very good. And what I didn't remember about this, so I haven't seen this one in a couple of years now, but after watching it as an adult for the first time in, let's say, years since I was a kid, things I didn't really remember about it were like the little jabs of humor in it. Like, come to find out that this was like partly written or something by one of the guys who wrote for the '60s Batman show.
Was it?
Which, yeah, I think it was William Dozier.
Oh
I
my
can't remember,
god.
but like, yeah, like all this kind of like inherent silly humor that goes completely like brushed over. But if you're looking for it, it's hilarious because like it's it's something that you wouldn't think that they would play straight,
No.
but they do. And so like I don't know, for me, like I appreciated stuff like that.
Yeah. Jessica Lange, the first at the beginning or when we first meet her, and in the last few scenes she's in, is like mind-blowingly bad. Like it's not the worst acting I've ever seen. Like I've listened to the dubs of Godzilla movies, and those are especially the early ones. But
Mhm.
the scene where she's like lying in the bed on the ship, and then at the end where Kong's dead at the World Trade Center, and she's like Jack, Jack. It's like no, please no.
That's-
But the effects you mentioned at the time, they were pretty good, and I think the best effect in this movie is the animatronic hand that they use, because it doesn't move 100% naturally, but the finger movements, the way it like moves, it works well, I think. And then the whatever they did into the face that made him like extremely expressive, like surprisingly so.
Yeah, the hand, like it's kind of a carryover from the 33
Mm-hmm.
version, except it's definitely more like he can open it up farther so she can kind of like lay across his palm.
Mm-hmm.
And they use that in a number of scenes. I think if I remember this book correctly, like they actually had several different like masks for Kong, so you could express differently, like depending on what you wanted him to do.
Mm-hmm.
And for that reason, like they were able to get way more expression out of him than they probably would have, normally.
Mm-hmm. The
But
the expression that really caught me off guard was the part where he dries off Dwan after she takes a shower or like a
yeah,
bath or whatever, and like it looks genuine, and I was surprised by that.
where they got to like inflate the sides of his mouth because he's like blowing air. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like I was genuinely surprised by how pretty convincing it was.
The one thing I did like that they kind of carried over also from the 33 is that Kong was like upright,
Mm-hmm.
which is something Peter Jackson kind of abandoned. Like he made Kong for all intents and purposes just a big gorilla. So he's constantly on all fours and he's constantly just like
Mm-hmm.
hunched over.
Mm-hmm.
Where the original movie Kong was like up on his back legs a lot more and standing more human
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah.
And this one they didn't go with the 4-point stance at all. Like he's constantly just upright because it's a guy in a suit, so it's just easier, I guess. But it makes Kong kind of like tower and a little bit more imposing, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Because this Kong was actually much larger too than the previous one, so it was easier for
Yeah.
them to make it, I guess, stand out to the audience
Mm-hmm.
doing that.
The the first extended scene we have with Kong and Dwan, there's this one shot where it's looking over Kong's shoulder, and he's superimposed onto the shot, and at first glance it's pretty good. There isn't that like blue border around Kong that
Mm-hmm.
a lot of early like superimposed movies have, but he's transparent. You can see right through him, and you can see all the branches and sticks and bushes, like where he wouldn't be. And it's like, okay, not unseeing that.
Like, I'm out. I'm done.
Yeah.
Now, like, there's the compositing work in that. Like, I think that might go back to just kind of the rushed production, but like,
Yeah.
there's scenes where they're like, yeah, I don't know if it's like rear projected or whatever they did, but like some of the scenes where he's on top of the World Trade Center, like the helicopters look kind of bad behind him. The scene where he's like throwing the guys off the log, like the guys falling or like falling into a blue void, like there's just something not quite chroma keyed out correctly.
Yeah. Part of that is, I mean, I don't know much about this movie. I know way more about the original, which I think everyone should be on that page. But that Oh man, the I'm trying to find the best words to describe the the feeling I had, because I was watching it and I was like, you know what, this isn't bad, for especially for the time, because like, remember, Terror of Mechagodzilla came out the year before, and obviously that's a Japanese production, and it's the production value is a lot lower, but that
Yeah.
movie is, in terms of its effects, I think leagues, and considering the budget they had, leagues above King Kong.
Yeah, they had a lot more. Um, I think probably with Godzilla movies, especially, they knew what they wanted, so they adjusted their budget accordingly. I
Mm-hmm.
think Kong, people didn't quite know what they were getting themselves into with like a lot of the stuff that they wanted, and so they were kind of like making it up on the fly, because it's not like they couldn't even refer back to the original Kong for notes or anything because it was done completely differently.
Mm-hmm.
Like they could have probably taken a page out of like some of Toho's stuff at that point and
Yeah.
just adjusted, like, okay, well, if we shoot it a little differently, we can kind of make it a little more serious. It's kind of like the difference, I guess, between Terror of Mechagodzilla followed by like 84, 85 Godzilla, like
Mm-hmm.
they're one follows the other directly, but they're totally very different. And you could see one is meant to be taken much more seriously.
Mm-hmm.
I think, yeah,
Continuity.
yeah, I think Kong should have done maybe a little more of that. And that, like, the pacing of Kong, I think was okay, but I also realized that certain things were like liberties were taken. So if you remember where they first got across that ravine and they go across the log,
Mm-hmm.
and Jeff Bridges, he goes across first,
Yeah.
and then he calls over to everybody and says like, "Okay, it's fine, come on over."
And then Kong just magically shows up.
He's just there. Yeah,
Yeah.
like how they didn't notice this, and now he's violently roaring. Like, how do you miss him? Like, it's a very wide. It's not like the original where there's like a whole jungle behind him,
Mm-hmm.
and even then, Kong's not just there. Like, Kong comes back around for him because he hears the commotion and everything. So
Yeah.
like this, nah, it's like Kong's just sat there watching this happen, and he decides to get mad about it when Jeff Bridges like lands. I
Yeah.
don't know. Like, it's not without its faults. This movie, definitely. I think I'm a little more lenient on it just because of being a fan of
Mm-hmm.
like for such a long time. But yeah, it's it has its issues.
The yeah, I didn't grow up with this movie at all. I every Thanksgiving I've been watching the 33 Kong. Every Thanksgiving without fault. Been watching
Yeah.
the 33. It's just something my dad did as a kid and he passed on to us.
Mhm.
He That movie is so, like, it's special. Like, there's something about it that is like that's a good movie. But I I just don't have that attachment to this movie, like, at all.
That makes sense. I mean, it's one of those that might be one of those kind of like things that I could put on, watch it, and be like, yeah, okay, it's not great, but I like it for X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not like some of the faults that it has are just a product of the time that it was made and kind of the limitations they had.
Yeah.
Others I think carried over just from the logic gaps in the original Kong. Like
Mm-hmm.
so like these natives on this island, they built this wall and you need a door so you can put the sacrifice that you're putting out to Kong. And I get that, but why is it a Kong sized door?
Yeah.
Just like make it a person sized door so he can't come smash it down when he gets mad at you. Like
It looks
you would think.
better on film. Duh.
True.
That's why they
Yeah.
built it that way.
Yep.
The natives were planning all along for people to come in with cameras, or in this case, oil, and be like, okay,
No
this
drill.
needs
Yeah.
to be photo esque. But
They planned on having Kong like come in one day, like when he was calm and pretty docile, and just
Mhm.
show him around the village.
yeah, he helps with repairs. If something's too high, he just picks them up, and then
Yep.
the natives with the wrench is like, okay, good.
If something falls off the roof, he can just put it back. It'd
Mm-hmm.
be fine.
It's like the scene from Rudolph where the snow beast is putting the star
Yeah.
on the tree.
Yep.
That movie is just Kong, not Rudolph. Kong is I think it's just forgettable. I think that's just the best way to put it.
Yeah, I can see your points. I mean, I'm in a different camp just because I've seen it so many times, and probably if I watched it once, there'd be a lot more that I would forget about it.
Oh yeah,
But because I just have been exposed to it over and over, like there's a lot of little things in it that pop into my head more often than they probably would otherwise.
that just broke. Yeah. Um, yeah, I think with the 33, I'm the same way you are, at least with this, with the Jeff Bridges. I've just watched it so much that I love it. I mean, I don't know. You didn't explicitly say that you loved the 76, but at least you have an appreciation for it.
Yeah, it's definitely like I would look at it as like not as bad as people think it is on its
Mm-hmm.
own merits, but at the same time, it's in the pantheon of all the Kong movies.
It ain't
It's
there.
far from the best. Yeah.
Yeah. So, the 76 wasn't a great movie. It wasn't bad either. It was just middle of the road. However, its sequel, this part is for the listeners, not for you. The sequel, King Kong Lives. Holy bejeebers.
I see you actually own it, which is brave.
Oh yeah, I own it. This is the one I watched more than the 76 because it was less scary. I have way more fond memories of this than I do Jeff
I
Bridges.
think I think we're gonna kind of take opposite paths here because this is the one that I've seen maybe 2 or 3 times in my life, and so just like plot wise, I remember most of it, but certain things in it I just don't like. There's things I just completely will blank on. I'm sure.
I haven't seen this in years either. The reason why I watched this so much was one, it was less scary. Two, there were two Kongs. For me as a kid, I was like, if it's got more of one thing, it's automatically better. That's why for about 3 years, Attack of the Clones was my favorite Star Wars because it had the most lightsabers, thus making it the best Star Wars ever.
Yeah.
So this one had two Kongs, and two Kongs is better than one. And then it also has a little snippet of Linda Hamilton's tits, so that's why it was way up there.
That's I remember that from renting it as a kid and like hitting that pause button, the slow motion. I'm like, oh man, they never would have let me rent this if they knew. Thinking, at age whatever I was.
Uh huh. So um, just looking at the back and just what I remember from it, this sort of takes place right after 76. And by the way, the Jeff Bridges Kong takes place, or it was made in 1976. This one was made in 1986, so a full 10 years later. And I don't think anyone wanted it. That's just my hunch. No one wanted it because no one really follows up a movie that was mediocre 10 years later. But yeah, anyway, the back of the box says that if you thought that Beast was dead, think again. In this thrilling sequel to the original smash hit King Kong, scientists discover a way to bring back the giant gorilla. If only they could find a blood match, which, they found something, must have. When doctors travel back to the primate's native Africa. Whoa. Okay, that's weird. It's what? Kong
We're
doesn't
just
come from
flipping.
Africa.
We're just flipping continuity because they don't remember how to get it back to the island. I guess I don't know.
It says that when doctors travel back to the primate's native Africa, that obviously is incorrect because they were on Skull Island, which they don't even show Skull Island. Like, they don't even show a skull in the original.
In the 76, yeah.
Yeah, because they say it's an island with a skull on it. And then I was like, okay, Skull Island. Yeah, duh. And then
That's like colloquially, like that's how we understand it. But like, I don't think it actually had the name Skull Island until maybe Peter Jackson, where he had that stupid scene of Adrian Brody typing skull.
yeah.
But like they always called it Skull Mountain
Mhm.
on in the original one, but the island itself, I don't think had a name.
No. Um, but so that continuity error.
Yep.
They miraculously discover a female of Kong's size just in time, but after the successful transfer, the government learns of the pair and is determined to avoid the bloodshed from the first rampage. I don't think Kong killed anyone.
He derailed the train, I think, but
That's right.
I don't know how much damage. Well, yeah, he stepped on people, but I mean that was
true.
They had him captive, and like, what do you think is gonna, you know,
Mm-hmm.
it's like if you have a lion enclosure, but you have him easily able to escape, you're probably asking for trouble.
Yeah. Now one doctor committed to save the two will battle the military in order to keep the magnificent gorillas alive. That happens, I guess.
That the read up is not very accurate. It kind of reminds me, like, years ago I found the Gargoyles cartoon series on DVD,
Oh, yeah.
but they called it Gotham City on the back. I'm like, nah, you're just lying to me. Like,
Had to pay royalties to DC there, I see.
I guess.
But this movie is the epitome of bland. That's kind of the best way I can say it. Next.
From what I remember, yeah. Like, I mean, there's not a ton of stuff I remember aside from the logic of, like, well, even from like a filmmaking perspective, like you said, you don't think anybody asked for this movie, and just on the surface, like, if anybody wanted it, it wouldn't have taken him 10 years to do it.
I mean,
And
it took Son of Kong 6 months
yeah,
to come out.
and I'm like, that would have been your bridge, is to just do something similar to that. Like, I know you killed off your I can't remember the guy's name, but you killed off your Denim-like character in the last movie.
Mm-hmm.
But if he had been kept alive, or somebody who knew where the island was, you could have had that be where you found the other Kong, and not some place in Africa where you changed the whole continuity.
Mm-hmm. And
But yeah, like, so they're like, well, you were just going with it. We're gonna retcon the ending of the original Kong to where he's like not quite dead, maybe. I don't know. Like,
it's like Batman getting his back broken. He's not dead, although it looks like he's dead. Or Jason Todd. It's like, he's not dead. Oh no, he's dead. Oh wait, no, he's Red Hood.
it took him like 25 years, but he came back.
Yeah, but from what I remember, the effects in this take a downturn considerably. There's this weird scene where some like hillbillies or rednecks try and catch Kong in an avalanche or a landslide.
Yeah.
And he breaks out, and that scene is fine. And then what I remember most from this movie, aside from the nipples, was Kong like eating. Like, you see him like take the people and like rip him in half, and you like see the not blood, but you see the flesh color. And I'm like, ugh. So,
Yeah.
As a kid, that was graphic, but now as a not quite adult, I'm like, that's funny.
Yeah, like I remember he like breaks people in half too. Like, he just rips them in two.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you do get to see Kong be a little bit more violent, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that kind of throws me back to the 33 one, because when he's rampaging through the native village and through the city, you do see him like chewing on people, but
stomping on them.
Yeah, he never quite like eats them. You know, you see him just like inside the big head, like struggling.
Mm-hmm.
But
and
yeah,
the part in New York, like, you see him bite the people and then take him and throw him down.
Yeah.
And then another thing in the 76 Kong, it not a shot for shot, but it reminded me the part where Kong derails the train. He lifts up the roof, and he sees a woman that's dressed like Dwan in that like blue sparkly dress, and he picks her up.
Yeah.
And she's upside down, I think, which is a callback to when Kong is climbing a building and finds Anne, and or finds someone that looks like Anne and picks her up, and she's upside down, and then he just chucks her, and she explodes. Actually, I think.
Oh well.
Like he throws her, and then you see an explosion. I don't know if that was meant to be like that, or if it was just a coincidence when the pyrotechnics went off at the same time the doll landed. But I was surprised by that, pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I do remember that you mentioned that. Like he figures out that it's not Dwan, and so he just like tosses her off to the side.
And she just explodes. I laughed at that part. Um, uh, I feel bad for Linda Hamilton in this movie though. Like she just came off Terminator like 2 years prior, and before that
Mhm.
she was just in like TV ads or not TV ads, like TV shows,
Yeah,
and like Terminator was her big breakout role, and to go from one of the greatest action thrillers of all time to this.
I'm wondering if she thought it was like a sure bet. She's like, everybody knows Kong, so to be in the new Kong movie, like
A surefire
just
success.
that's gonna propel me. You know, we took a risk on Terminator because nobody knew if it was gonna be good or what, but it
Mm-hmm.
turns out great. And so now, you know, new sequel to Kong. This is how can this go wrong?
Yeah. Um, this movie is even more baffling. Um, the one thing you mentioned with the 76 is that the suit actor, since it's a person in a suit, never walked on all fours. At the end fight scene with the military on the farm, he does walk on all fours, which I know that's kind of a minor thing, but that's gotta be weird for the suit actor. Like, I wonder if he had like prosthetic like extenders to make it look more like a gorilla.
Almost like stilts built inside of the arm or something to kind of
Yeah.
like lean up on. It could be. I don't remember much about King Kong Lives. Like I do remember the fight scene at the end at the military while like the other Kong is in there giving birth, basically.
Yeah.
Spoilers, you know.
Yeah. By the
But
way, people, there's a baby Kong. So
yep, this would have been in memes before Baby Yoda if the internet existed in 1986 in the capacity that it
yeah.
does now.
I mean, I think that just goes to show how forgettable this is. Like, baby Kong is forgotten.
Yeah.
What a travesty. Well, we both don't remember much about this movie, so I think we'll move on to the next.
Fair.
Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Oh, I was so excited to watch this.
Oh, that's one that I can watch like over and over, and it always offers me something new.
Oh, yes. I've only seen it once, and which is weird. I skipped to the sequel. I skipped to Annihilation without watching the first one, which
Oh, okay.
I don't think you should do. I
It,
know enough just from watching your channel about and like what happened. I know enough to understand what the characters are and what their motivations are, and
yeah,
so I know like Liu Kang, and Katana, and Shao Kahn, but this movie was just amazing.
that's the thing. Like the first movie, given that it's based on Mortal Kombat, does a good job, and it's honestly like it's not great by any means, but I would say that it's a good movie. Like you could watch it and get basically everything you want from a Mortal Kombat movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like all the characters from the original game are in there. They all have something to do, even though, you know, let's like there's one or two that don't really do much, but at least they're there and they have cool fights, and that's kind of what you want.
Mm-hmm.
This one, we're just going to throw everyone in, give them like 90 seconds to do something, and then we're going to just blow them up or kill them or throw them in a hole or something, and like that's it. That's your favorite character. He's gone.
My boy Ermac, he was like thrown to the wayside.
Yeah, he made it all the way to the end. It's more than you can say for Rain, who gets thrown in a hole like right away.
Was that Baraka or Rain? I'm not sure.
Well, Baraka also, yeah, later on, it turns into Rain on his way down. But
That.
uh,
Oh man, there is nothing anyone can say to change my mind that this movie is one of the funniest movies, unintentionally, that I have ever seen.
masterpiece of storytelling and cinema. That scene, all the scenes with Nightwolf.
Oh,
Like,
you have 3 tests. Only one test.
yeah, it's like that's my animality. Pretty cool, huh? Like, you're the wise shaman guy, and that's how you're talking.
the the opening scene, opening fight scene where Shao Kahn is like at this, um, it's almost like a Buddhist mosque or like temple. He just
Yeah,
randomly appears, and is it Liu Kang?
probably Liu Kang. Like,
And
so it picks up literally right at the end of the last movie.
yeah,
Like no time has passed for any of these characters,
mm-hmm.
and
So
yeah,
it's Katana and Liu Kang, and all of a sudden, and Raiden, and all of a sudden the skies get dark, and Shao Kahn just shows up out of nowhere, and then the female Goro and Rain and Ermac and whatever that centaur's name is, I keep forgetting. It's like
Motaro.
Multaro. That's what it was. He they just magically appear, and the ninjas are just doing like a. They're just doing like this martial arts poses that do nothing.
Yeah,
Um,
they're showing off.
yeah, and then Sindel walks up the steps.
Oh,
And
the classic entrance.
Katana is like, "What? I thought you were dead." And then Sindel says, "Too bad you will die." And it is
I
the
love the
worst.
delivery.
It is the worst acting I have ever seen.
It's great. Oh man.
The I honestly am so glad that I watched this movie because it shows me, you know, for one, this movie was completely pandering to the fans of Mortal Kombat, which isn't automatically bad because there are movies that do pander to or are made specifically for the fans. I think like Endgame is an example of one that is well executed.
Yeah.
But this movie was not one of those examples.
So like earlier we mentioned Godzilla, King of the Monsters, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like, well, this is a movie for fans of Godzilla, and Godzilla fans by and large liked it.
Yeah.
This is like that concept, but done totally wrong. And we've made a Mortal Kombat movie with characters and things that Mortal Kombat fans are going to like,
Mm-hmm.
except we forgot along the way to make it a good movie, and it works for that reason. I think if this movie had tried to take itself like more in the direction of like, let's say, the first movie, it would have felt overcrowded and been kind of in a way forgettable. But there's no way to forget this movie. Once you've seen it, you remember it.
Yeah, the fighting is fine actually. I was surprised by the level of choreography that Annihilation had. I think the first one is easily better, like the Johnny Cage and Scorpion fight in, I think it's like Hell or something, where they're on a bunch of crates. I think that
Yeah.
is a much better fight, but the fight between Sub-Zero and Scorpion, I think is actually pretty decent.
Choreography wise, yeah, they definitely. I mean, at some point between the previous movie and this one, they discovered wires, and they're like, we're going to use these for every fight. We're going to have Liu Kang backflip in the opposite direction out of the way of a missile
Mm-hmm.
and land somewhere. We're going to have Scorpion flip Sub-Zero backwards,
Oh
and
yeah.
in midair, Sub-Zero is going to land on Scorpion's chest somehow or something. Like it
Oh
was
yeah.
one or the other. Yeah,
That was hilarious.
they're just like, whatever. We're just going to make all of our characters completely defy physics and gravity, and it's going to look awesome. And then you watch it.
And it's awesome.
Yeah.
The that is, oh man, I'm trying to remember the movie because it's been a few weeks, but to be honest, the cyborgs, I think they just have Cyrax and Sector. I think that's the only ones they have. They might have had Smoke.
It's Cyrax and Smoke. I don't remember Sector in the movie.
Okay, because
Because
I know Sector has the missiles coming out of his chest.
yeah, they kind of gave Smoke like a missile type bomb thing, and
The
yeah,
that I was surprised by the how actually well um, like interpreted or well translated, I guess, the designs from the games are to the movie for the cyborgs, because they look like, I mean, they just look like cybernetic predators, but they look like the actual like gameplay sprites.
that's
Damn
the good
landline.
thing.
Sorry.
Landlines, wow.
Oh yeah.
That's definitely like to their credit. The costume design for some of the characters was good. Um, those cyborgs, like you say, being kind of like probably the best examples of that.
hmm And then is his name Jax, the guy with the metal arm, or
Yeah, that's Jax.
what was that story arc? Like, he had metal arms and he was doing well. Like, he could break metal or like rip out of metal, like chains. And then at the end, he's like, "I don't need these. I'm stronger without them." And then he just like sheds them. And I thought he was armless, because
That's his. Oh yeah, that came later. Like when they redid like the Mortal Kombat continuity with MK9 in the
mm-hmm.
video games, they had it where his arms were literally like ripped off, and it wasn't like they were just enhancements. They were like now his new arms.
Because that's what
But
I thought they were the whole time. I thought they were just completely like separate from his body, almost like I guess like a Star
like a
Wars arm.
prosthetic type thing.
Yeah, I thought it was they were prosthetics, but then he's like, "I don't need these. I'm stronger without them." And then he
To be
punches.
honest, I don't remember if they ever really like went into detail as to whether he could remove them like in the video game continuity. Like I know that he didn't have him in MK2, and then he just had him in MK3, and it was like, oh, these enhance his like strength, and he give him some different abilities and stuff. So I don't know if he like could remove them. I'm not sure. In the movie, they're like, whatever, here you can just take them on and off.
Mm-hmm.
And furthermore, with the way time happens in this movie, like when you pick up right at the end of the first movie, that means all this stuff is happening like pretty
Within
much
2 weeks.
the next day probably.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jax is like so Sonya goes like the last thing you see of her or of Jax I should say on the first Mortal Kombat is he watches Sonya chase Kano onto this ship basically. And you assume probably only a couple days have passed and now Jax is in here doing this. Like why where was this decision making done?
Up someone's ass.
Yeah, entirely.
So, for anyone that hasn't seen Mortal Kombat, for one, Annihilation, I should say, please do so. It is amazing to watch in its baffling production, too. Because, have you seen the Matt McMuscle's What Happened?
Yes, I
Okay.
believe so.
Okay, so if you haven't watched that, people listening, please watch that. That's actually really great insight, because I never knew, I didn't know this before because I hadn't seen it. But when I watched Annihilation, I was looking for the scene where rain falls and then where Baraka falls. And Baraka looks awful in this movie too. It's kind of funny.
Oh God,
In
yeah.
his tennis shoes. But the scene where Baraka and Rain fall are, I think it's the Baraka clip twice. It may be the Rain clip. I don't know. But
I think it's the rain clip just because when Shao Kahn first throws rain in there, it's rain.
mm-hmm.
And then when Liu Kang knocks Baraka in, I think they just used the same one from earlier in the movie.
Okay, so be on the lookout for that if you're watching Mortal Kombat Annihilation. So,
Which you should watch it because like there's so much that you'll get from that movie. Like
unintentionally.
yeah, no, they didn't intend for you to come away with so much. There is
No.
just the amount of flips in this movie. I'm just very satisfied.
Oh yeah, that fits my daily quota of flips.
Shao Kahn like talking to what we now know to be Shinnok, but it's just some old guy.
Mm-hmm.
When he like the first scene where you see Shinnok and he just flips down the stairs to tell him like the news.
This is glorious. Like that was just unnecessary.
It is unnecessary, but it gets quoted like very regularly by me and probably countless others. So I mean,
It's just
it
memed
lives
on.
on. It lives on in our hearts.
It does. It does. What else can be said about this movie?
Let me think. Um, let's see. I covered Night Wolf, one of my favorites. Just awful. Shao Kahn and his flips, the early scenes, like where you kind of realize, like, wait a minute, that's not the same Johnny Cage, but I guess it doesn't matter because he just dies anyway. So whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Raiden is just not Raiden anymore. He's the guy from Sex and the City now.
I forgot about that.
And like that's the thing. Like James Remar is actually a really good actor, but why is he Raiden in this? Like I I will never understand the casting choice.
Yeah, they changed every single cast member except for Katana and Liu Kang.
Yeah, I mean, luckily the majority of the Mortal Kombat characters are people in masks and helmets and things, so you wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
probably know. But
But like Sonya, Johnny Cage, and Raiden, I think were the ones that carried over, and
yeah,
they're completely different. I mean, it's some Joe Schmo playing Johnny Cage.
yeah, you don't need somebody much for what Cage had to do in that movie.
Nah, it's just no Sonya runs at Shao Kahn.
Yep, dies.
It is glorious. And then
The
all
end
of
fight scene with the two dragon things fighting.
it's like a Hydra and then like a gargoyle. Oh,
State of the art.
oh yeah. And what I love is that their clothes are intact once they come back from being giant.
Yeah, that's a pretty incredible Hulk-like thing
Oh yeah.
to just we just accept that when they turn into these things, they'll come back with exactly what they were wearing before.
Mm-hmm. And one thing I love is Shao Kahn just going like yeah, yeah, yeah with
Yeah,
his magic, whatever. It's almost like a Hadouken from Street Fighter, and he's just
where he knocks Raiden like off the pyramid
yeah.
thing.
It's funny. It's the I don't know how much of a I don't know how much they cared about this movie, but something tells me it wasn't a lot.
Yeah, I think they were like, we just need to get this out because Mortal Kombat 3 is out, and all these characters, the fans are clamoring to see them all. It's like, well, what are they gonna do? It's like, doesn't matter, just put them in.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if it makes any sense. It doesn't need to. They don't need to do anything except fight and blow up, and that's what they are gonna do.
That's what Mortal Kombat is.
They largely, yeah, they put in like I mean, there's a handful of characters missing from the two movies, but for the most part, they covered most of the roster from the first three Mortal Kombat games.
Mm-hmm. So
Not well, but they did it.
hey, that's all we can ask for. That's all we can ask for.
Yep.
So, anything else to mention about Annihilation?
Not off the top of my head. If it pops in, I'll circle back to it. But yeah, 10 out of 10 experience for like a 2 out of 10 movie.
I want MST3K to riff on it because I think that would be great.
That's right in their wheelhouse too. I would think that that's got to be on the table for them.
Hopefully their new Netflix show does it. But actually, I'm gonna show how old school I am for this next one. Hang on. So, the next movie we're talking about is the 1998.
Oh, look at this.
Oh, yeah. For those not... obviously, this is an audio version, or audio podcast. I am holding the VHS tape of 1998. This is the one I grew up on, and it is bent through all hell.
I think I have the same one somewhere in my mom's basement somewhere, along with several of my other like old like Toho VHS tapes.
Mm-hmm. The every time I went to one of the thrift shops near me. They had a DVD VHS selection, and every time I went there would always be a VHS tape of 98 every single time without fail.
Nice.
So this movie, along with Annihilation, had a really troubled production. There were I know more about this than Annihilation, so I'm gonna go a little bit of a crazy nerd mode. But
awesome.
There were several different original directors before Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin. There was supposed to be this new up-and-coming director who only directed some schlock movies. Like, I think they were rom-coms. So to go from, something like Sleepless in Seattle, he didn't direct that. But to go from a movie like Sleepless in Seattle to Godzilla, it's kind of a big step. And he had these maquettes made by a sculptor, Stan Winston Studios, actually, who did Terminator and Predator and Aliens. So, they know their stuff.
Yeah.
He had them do maquettes of Godzillas, and they looked pretty good. But then budgetary issues came in, and fights over like how the movie would be presented, and all that type of Hollywood crap happened, and everything fell through. And then Dean Devlin and Roland Emmerich, who directed things like Independence Day, before that, Independence Day, and a couple other like alien invasion disaster movies, they came in and they're like, we don't want to do it, but you're paying us a ton of money, so we'll do it. And they made every single decision they made was the incorrect one. Because Roland Emmerich, the director, said that they didn't want to make the original Godzilla, or the Japanese Godzilla. They wanted to make their own. They wanted to make it better, which I don't think happened. That's just a hunch I have.
Yeah, history has shown that they failed in that regard.
Yeah, I think that's true. So yeah, the budget for this movie was over the original budget that the original director had proposed. But Sony was like, we trust the people that made Independence Day more than this nobody. So they gave him way more money than anyone really needed. So, Cap, what are your thoughts on 98?
Well, let's see. I mean, I recently actually watched, like you mentioned, Matt McMuscles before he did a What Happened on This Movie too. And I actually learned a lot from that, like you're saying, with the previous directors that were tied to it and some of the concept art, and thinking like, wow, you know what? That's not bad. That takes everything about Godzilla and just, tweaks things here and there, but it's still very much recognizable as Godzilla. Like, it's no question.
Unlike the Jeff Bridges Kong.
Yeah. So like I guess I remember when this movie was coming out, and like they kept a lid on Godzilla's design for a really long time. Like all you saw was the T-Rex foot in the trailer that looked, basically like Jurassic Park. And but beyond that, you didn't really get much of a glimpse of his design. I think the first real look at it you got was when they showed Trendmasters had the action figure license at the time, and they showed one of the toys.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, so that's what they're doing, huh? And I would have been in like 8th grade at the time. So, I mean, I was well familiar with Godzilla, but I knew they were going to go in a different direction. I just didn't realize really how different they were going to get. And so I'm like, well, okay, let's see how this goes. And well, there it went. It wasn't like seeing it in the theater. I was like, okay, I know I liked Independence Day at that point, so I remember, wanting to kind of relive something like that. That wasn't really what I got. What I got was kind of like some fun scenes with Godzilla, but the more I thought about it, I'm like, but why is he running like away from these things? Godzilla first of all, Godzilla wouldn't be affected by any of this military stuff. He just would just brush it off, like it wouldn't do anything.
Yeah.
And second, why is there a Jurassic Park like raptor scene with baby Godzillas chasing them through like I don't know if it's Madison Square Garden or whatever it was, but
Yeah.
it was like, yeah. So like, what is this? Like, what have they done? And then lastly,
Something
like,
horrible.
yeah, by the end of the movie, they just blow Godzilla up, which is not something you should ever be able to do. Like the only way mankind has ever really defeated Godzilla is by kind of like, save for the original movie, is basically by like keeping
Trapping
him dormant. Yeah, figuring a way to like just kind of like isolate him or keep him like put him somewhere where he can't get out.
Mm-hmm.
So we've seen him get frozen or buried in ice in an avalanche or thrown in a volcano or something that'll hold him off for a while. We haven't killed him, but we whatever. This is like, we're just gonna blow him up and it's gonna work.
Because America.
Yeah, basically that's why they're like, well, in America the military always wins.
Yeah, that's for those who don't know, Matt McMuscles is a YouTuber who does this show called What Happened, and he looks at baffling debacles, as he puts it, of the entertainment industry. And he cited Shusuke Kaneko, who directed GMK and the original Gamera trilogy, which are amazing movies. And he quoted the director saying that America can't take down, or can't like fathom not being able to take down a monster with their weapons, or something along that lines, where America is so like strong heavy, or so I guess blunt, I guess. I don't know what the best word is, but they're so proud, I guess, of their military,
Yeah.
that they can't focus, or they can't think of not winning with their military. And
I remember, yeah.
I think that's actually
That's
kind of true.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what the quote is, so it's like a paraphrase, but it's like America has no concept of how to approach a
Lose.
problem that they can't blow up,
Yeah.
like something along those lines. And you see a lot of that today in a lot of ways, but in Godzilla especially, like it's the thing about Godzilla in the Toho movies, and you see it as recently as like Shin Godzilla, where it's like you try and approach it from a military standpoint and you realize very quickly that it's not going to work, so you need to come up with something else.
Mm-hmm.
But like this movie, there was none of that. They're like, well, we shot at it, now we're going to shoot at him again, but bigger and more, and eventually it's just going to win. And I don't know, that to me kind of like ruined part of it. Like that's why I could look at this movie and be like, well, that's why I know this isn't really Godzilla. I mean, in name only, I guess, which is kind of the moniker that it carried for a long time.
Yeah, Gino.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is, I think, the biggest sticking point a lot of people have with this movie. I love the design of Zilla, or Godzilla, or Gino, or whatever you call him. Like, I love the iguana design of it. I think it's really great. But I don't think it works for Godzilla. Like, if they remade like Beast from 20,000 Fathoms and that was the movie that came out, I'd be like, yeah, that's a good movie. That's a fine movie. But with like what we were saying earlier, with having the Godzilla name attached to it, there's this level of expectation that has to be met, and this movie just didn't meet that.
Yeah. When I first, like I said, when I first saw the design, I was kind of like, well, that's, it's not doing it for me, but let's see what it's got. It might grow on me, and it might do, the movie might be fine. That makes me kind of forget about the design. From what I gather, like the follow-up animated series was actually not bad. I never actually saw it, but people say that of all the things to come out of this movie, that was among the best.
Yeah, that I've seen the whole thing. I got the set at Menards, which is odd, but it's not bad, but it's not something I probably will ever rewatch, just because it's kind of a one and done.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Part of what I remember about like this movie prior to it coming out was that like I was excited that Godzilla was becoming kind of American pop culture, because like I say, previous to that, it was kind of tough. Like Trendmasters at the time had the toy license, so we were starting to see some cool like Toho inspired designs.
But it was still super niche.
Yeah, like I mean, you could find them in toy stores, and I was all excited to buy them. So I was buying the Godzilla with the button on his chest that lit up his eyes and it made the growl noise and everything. And they had a couple different series, and like at the time, this might be like a tangent, but at the time, like I had no concept that there had been any movies beyond 85 because in America you just didn't see them. You know, there was no way you could actually come across them.
Yeah, I saw that the Treadmasters came out with characters way before any of the movies came out. Like Mecha King Ghidorah, I think was one of them that just randomly popped up, and no one was like, "What movie is this from?" And
pretty much any like Heisei character. So I was like, I don't know what Biollante is. I don't know what Space Godzilla is. I just thought Trendmasters was making up monsters, and at the time, you know, it was enough to get my sixth grade self. It was enough to get me upset because I'm like, yeah, but where's Hedorah? Where's Megalon? Where's like the guys I know? And you know, eventually, I guess they got made. But
what was that feeling or the thought process when you finally saw Biollante or King Ghidorah or Space Godzilla?
Oh, like the when I figured out that those movies were actually real.
Yeah.
I mean, part of me felt like I was robbed for like years, but then I was always I was older at the time, like when I actually started looking into this on the internet, and this would have been about 2004.
Oh wow.
So I'm like, not only have there been like 10 more of these movies at this point, or maybe even more, but a lot of them I can just go get on DVD because I hadn't been keeping track of like what was available in the US at that point, and a lot of them were sold in like double sets. So I'm like, I could go watch all these, and as a little cherry on top, there's a new one coming out that would have been Final Wars at that point, in a couple months. So like I'm about to watch like a brand new Godzilla movie, which I haven't done since 2000. You know, the Millennium one was the only other one that I knew of at the time.
Yeah.
From Toho.
Yeah.
So I mean, learning about all that and kind of seeing their logic and trying to figure out their timeline and their continuity, and understanding that a lot of it just wouldn't make sense, but just go with it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a learning experience.
Okay. I wasn't born before 98, so I don't know what that whole like hype train of media felt like. I kind of had that experience with 2014 and King of the Monsters. I kind of had that, but it wasn't, I don't think it was as intense because people had the aftertaste of 98 was still in people's mouths, and you know, oh, an American Godzilla, and so the only one that I can remember within recent memory being huge was King of the Monsters, because when the trailers came out, they were like super popular, and like they were number one on trending on YouTube, and you know, that's the most I guess hype that's been around a Godzilla movie that I can remember, at least.
I think the 98 hype was more, but the King of the Monsters was handled a lot better, because I think in 98 you had
artificial hype.
You know, well, you had everything. It was like on the side of a bus, and there was Taco Bell tie-ins, and it was like they were hyping this movie that hadn't even come out yet, and they didn't. It was a huge risk, but everybody just knew, like, well, it was the guys from Independence Day, so how could this possibly fail? Yeah. And that, you know, what happened, and people were kind of like, well, all right. So for decades at that point, Godzilla in America was kind of looked at as like, you can't really do that. The only other thing I could think of that would be close would be like Batman, but Batman has such a more substantial prominence in America that it took him like still like 7 or 8 years before they touched Batman again after Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
And even that was like, people were like still like, no, you can't do that after this last movie. That's too soon.
The taste was still the aftertaste was still in people's mouth.
People still had that in the back of their head. Yeah. So like Godzilla, I mean, especially with King of the Monsters, like once you establish that like 2014 was good, and you had Skull Island at that point, so you knew that like you could build towards something like this. And that's why I think King of the Monsters hype was handled better, just because it wasn't as in your face, but if you knew where to look, you could find cool stuff. And there was like the little radar map thing you could look at, and it's like, oh, this thing is called Monster Zero, and we don't know much about it. But if you're a fan, you're like, oh, okay, that's really cool. Like, I like
Yeah,
what they're doing.
yeah, that's definitely something. I think it's a bit of a generational gap. I think like Cap and I, we have it probably at least 10 years apart, at least.
Yeah.
So I definitely do not have that same experience because I didn't live through the hype of '98, and you have, and King of the Monsters in 2014. So I really have a different like social experience too with being a Godzilla fan. Because my friends know what Godzilla is. They might not take it seriously, but they know what he is, and they've seen a few more probably the American versions, not the
Mm.
Japanese versions, but they've seen at least one Godzilla movie and they know what he is. But I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I don't think you kind of had that luxury.
It was a lot tougher to come by. Like the people who knew what Godzilla was when I was a kid were like thinking of, you know, like the
People in number
sillier, like,
six.
yeah, the 70s movies and like kind of the stuff where Godzilla wasn't taken as seriously. And it was like these were corny movies for kids to just put them on and whatever. Like now, like now, I think, like you're saying, people by and large know what Godzilla is or at least familiar with it
Mm-hmm.
because you can go, there's movies out every year, every couple of years. There's stuff on Netflix, whether you want to take or leave the anime stuff, it's there and it's in your face and it's prominent.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, there's
Enough
enough
media.
comics and yeah, different market stuff for it,
Mm-hmm.
toys and everything else you can find. Like there was none of that. So like being a toy collector, like from a young age and stuff that I liked, like I was thrilled when I found the Trendmasters figures because like it had been pretty much unheard of to get
Mm-hmm.
any Godzilla besides the tall one with the silver chest and the red lipstick.
Oh,
And
the Imperial.
yeah, that's the one.
Got those too.
Yeah, I had like a 7-inch one and like probably the 11 or 12-inch one that everybody had.
I have those too.
Nice.
Yeah. The I like I said I can't relate to that at all because I mean you can see behind me this array of just monster arts and then like the NECAs and Bandais. I mean you can go to Walmart and buy the Playmates or the Bandai figures for I think like $10
Yeah.
and like they're everywhere. You can go to Target or Walmart or like comic book shops or game shops, and I I can guarantee that you'll find something Godzilla related in every one of those stores, unless of course people are hoarding.
Well, of all things they should be hoarding, it's probably Godzilla toys. But
Yeah.
the yeah, like that kind of stuff. Like if you went to like let's say specialty shops,
Hmm.
you might find like some of the smaller like vinyl characters, but they wouldn't be affordable by any stretch because it was like an import at that point, and it was like considered like a high end item
Hmm.
compared like now.
And look
Obviously, you
where
can
we are
just
now.
yeah, exactly. I remember my roommate actually got the first Monster Arts Godzilla, so the '94 one with the atomic blast and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm messing with it. I'm like, what have you done? Because you just opened us up to like
Pandora's box.
yeah, and like not long after that, they made Space Godzilla. So I'm like,
Mm.
they're already giving us like characters for him to fight. It's not just going to be a one and done Godzilla. Like, all right, how deep are we going to go with this?
Pretty deep apparently.
Yeah, now looking years later, there's so many characters, and I think Monster Arts, they missed the mark once or twice, but by and large, I think they've done a great job with a lot of their figures and the variety that you get. I know they stick towards more
Heisei.
yeah, Heisei like stuff. So I would like to see them fill in some earlier gaps, but
Hmm.
besides that, like I can't really complain at all.
Yeah. I
Every version of Godzilla you could want is
is
pretty much
available.
out there.
Yeah.
Actually, just saw earlier today that they're re-releasing the I think the 2002 one.
Are they?
Yeah. So I mean, I know that was going up in price. So I mean, that's good for anybody that wants to jump on. It's one of the best Godzillas, in my opinion, that you could probably get. And
Yeah.
now it's going to just be for retail price.
I would expect them to do the 2003 version with the scar. I know NECA is doing that. But
Yeah.
I didn't know that they were re-releasing oh 02. which is
I didn't
against
know.
Mechagodzilla.
Yeah, I didn't know until just today. I happened to be scrolling through Big Bad and I saw it listed for like $89 or whatever it is. I'm like, oh, okay.
He was on Big Bad?
I believe so. Yeah, I'll double check, but that's yeah.
Interesting, because every once in a while I'll check on Amazon, which is no help, and
Mhm.
Big Bad for like just monster arts and figure arts.
Yeah.
And Big Bad, Monster Arts hasn't released much of anything recently. I think the last thing was the Mothra Rodan set from 2019.
Yeah.
Oh, oh, they are.
It's that and the 54, I believe, right?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Okay, they jumped the price. Jesus. So yeah, they're re-releasing the O2, which is Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, and then the 54. The O2 is 90, and then the 54 is 82.
All right. So that beats trying to track down the O2 like up until yesterday where you were going to be
Paying up
putting a
the
couple
ass.
hundred out.
Yeah, I think these are $5 or $10 more than the previous ones, but I haven't seen Monster Arts do this in a while.
These look like straight re-releases too. Like I know
Yeah,
sometimes they get under the wire with like premium colors or something like
yeah.
Bandai with Burning Godzilla. They painted all the tail like orange and added the smoke and stuff. And
And then
Ghidorah was like a poster colors or something.
yeah, it
Like
was like
so
a
he's
gray
brighter.
or gold, not gray. Yeah, but those just look like straight re-releases. I mean, they don't have any accessories like the original releases. Um, I think the only re-releases that are really worthy of being re-released is if they come with extra stuff. So like Mechagodzilla, the Shinagawa Final Battle version or whatever they call it, that comes with the damaged arm and the damaged Absolute Zero cannon. I think
Oh
that
yeah.
that is, oh, and the beam effect too. I think that that is worth a re-release.
To
But
me, like yeah, I agree with you. Like I think if it's going to be different, that makes it so like a completist type collector would buy it because they're offering at least something different.
mhm.
And somebody who may have missed the original version doesn't feel like I don't know, like it's not the exact same version, so it's different enough for them to be like, well, I'm getting something a little different than I would have gotten, but at least it's
It's
you know
something.
it's here now. Yeah,
Yeah,
I liked.
the Millennium Godzilla, like it was originally the purple spikes, and
Yeah, that's the
then
version I.
they re-released it a few years later with white spikes.
Yeah, I remember seeing that one at like Barnes and Noble and stuff, and like thinking, even though I had the first version, I'm like, yeah, but this one does look pretty good. Like,
Yeah, I
no
mean,
harm in
it
get. I
looks
never
good.
did get it.
It looks good. I mean, I'm looking at mine right now. It looks fine. It's a good figure too. But
Yeah, I really like the Millennium one was actually the first one that I got because my roommate had been getting a couple of them at that point, and so I was
mhm.
like, I need to jump on, and so I was really happy with that figure because it was different enough from at that point the '94 and the '64 I think was out.
Yeah,
So I was like, wow, okay. So we have three distinctly different looking Godzillas, and they're all really cool looking. That's kind of what gave me the idea for that. Was it Dimension War? Because I'm like, we just got talking about like, yeah, how much would it suck if it was like two Godzillas though,
uh huh.
like or three, you know? So that just went off on a completely different tangent. But then like the some of the re-releases that I've seen, I have liked, but I've avoided just because I had the original ones. So like Space Godzilla and Little Godzilla.
hmm
Like, well, my roommate has Space Godzilla. I already have Little Godzilla. There's kind of no reason to grab that set, even though it is nice.
Oh, you can send it over to me.
But yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. Like somebody who just jumped on recently
hmm
and doesn't want to go back for those figures, you can get both of them in a set with pretty much everything.
Yeah, and then
And good.
the oh, what was it? I forgot what figure it was that was basically just the same figure but a different color. Oh, the Emergence version, the 64.
Oh, with like the sandy colored version,
Yeah,
because he came with the beam effect too that the original one didn't have.
yeah. He came with like a Showa style. It wasn't. it didn't have any ripples in it. It was just kind of like a solid, like, cone almost.
Yeah.
And I mean, that barely justified its making, I think, because you could literally just buy another Monster Arts 64, throw it around in sand and dirt, and then call it a day.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Like, I wish
And it didn't
when
even look convincing.
if they're gonna do like a re-release of something like that, you kind of have to tie it in with something that matches with it. So like when they redid Burning Godzilla, they also re-released Destroya not too long before or after that,
Yeah.
so it made sense.
Yeah.
Like if they had done like let's
Just
say
Burning Godzilla.
a Showa Mothra to
Mm-hmm.
go with that re-released Godzilla, that would have been cool. Like because the only Mothra they did was Heisei,
Mm-hmm.
and like it would be great to see like a Showa version and then maybe like a double larva version from the old movies or something.
Yeah.
Like just get something different out there and something that's unique that people want but nobody has yet.
It'll justify the other purchase.
Yeah, so the completist in you can set all of them up and you have a complete set from, whichever movie they're focusing on at that point.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was a great talk about 1998.
Yeah, we ventured off. We'll tie it back around. They need to somebody needs to do a 98 Godzilla. They can do a Figure Arts, or if NECA can jump through a loophole and get it out there.
I would love a 98 figure. The biggest problem though is the balance of it, because it's more dinosaur-like, where he's parallel to the ground and his feet are super small. It'd kind of be like those Beasts of the Mesozoic figures, where there would have to be like a crotch cradle or a stand or like a foot adapter thing that would make the stand or the balancing of that figure a lot easier.
Yeah, I mean, as I look once again upon King Ghidorah, like they're obviously not afraid to rely on stands if they need to. And Ghidorah, I think, is like one of the first figures in the line that doesn't really stand on its own. So like you need, like the stands would definitely be something that you'd have to consider if you got a 98, or if you included him with like a building rubble or something that he would like lean up on, because at points in the movie you see him like perched up on something and kind of like almost like hugging a building while he's roaring or something. Like, I don't know. There's a way to do it. It's just, will they do it? Do they want to?
Yeah, and even Ghidorah, like I got him stood up without the stands and the struts a few times, but I've never left him more than 10 minutes at most.
Yeah, I'm too afraid.
I'm too afraid to. Yeah, every time I take him off, I pull the wings off just in case. But even Ghidorah can do that a little bit. But it would just be real tricky with Zilla or Godzilla.
He's got such a big head too that he'd be like so forward, front heavy, like.
And then the tail is super long too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the design might prohibit that, I guess, in some ways. But if anybody could pull it off, I would definitely like to see it.
The body of Zilla kind of reminds me of the Monster Arts Rodan, because I have it, and it's super thin and kind of spindly, and I feel like if they made a Zilla or a 98 figure, that it would kind of feel that way, because the 98 design is super like thin and spindly, like I said.
Yeah, as I look at the Rodan up there, like it would have kind of like that kind of texturing and kind of thickness to it. Like the body wouldn't be like big and stocky like a lot of the Godzillas they've made. Like I look down at the anime Godzilla, which is like the total opposite, where he's got tiny legs and a huge upper body, but he's leaning back on his tail, so it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, even without the tail, he can stand up on his own.
Yeah, I mean, that figure, for a Godzilla that basically does not move at all in the movies, like he's surprisingly mobile.
Yeah. And
say what you will about the movies, I like the version I got. So figure-wise, there are things that they could do. I just don't know if they will.
Yeah. So Anything else to say on 98?
I mean, I remember I had a inflatable one that was about like 3.5 feet tall,
Mm-hmm.
like based on that design. So like it had a big, it was basically like one of those bop bag things that you would get, but it was like in the shape of Godzilla and the face was printed on it and everything. And it was interesting.
I bet every G fan was like, I need to get one of those so I can take out my anger on it.
Yeah, just some people probably did buy it and just beat it up. And I don't know. For me, I just had it in the corner of my bedroom till it eventually popped. I think my mom, I suspect to this day that my mom actually popped it because my sisters were afraid of it and I would use that to my advantage. So, yeah, I never got a straight story on that, but I know what happened.
I see.
Yep. But that's my tales of the 98 Godzilla. I mean, it was interesting to witness and kind of see the build up and the aftermath of everything that kind of came and went with that movie. And now knowing what we know about the directors and the producers just not really wanting to do it, but doing it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Which to me,
oh, go ahead.
Oh, like to me makes no sense because you're only going to damage your reputation as well as the franchise.
Yeah.
So even if somebody wanted to do it respectfully afterwards, it would take them, 98 to 2014. So,
yeah.
16 years or whatever it was before anybody would touch it again.
Mm-hmm. I'm just looking at the back of my DVD box, and it says music video, and I forgot that.
Oh yeah.
That I don't know the musicians or the singer's name, but I've seen the music video where Godzilla just like lays down or like puts his face right in front of the stage, and then the singer is just like jumping up and down and rapping at his face. It's kind of funny.
Yep, that was part of the tie-in even before the movie was out. Puff Daddy and Jimmy Page doing their "Come With Me" song, which if I ever do another Godzilla animated project, maybe I'll
Please
just
reference
have that be the end. Yeah, that'll be the end. An egg will hatch and it'll just cut to black, and that'll be the song.
Hagar and McDougal just hamming it up in front of Godzilla.
Yeah, that's not the movie anybody wants to watch, but
hey.
it's a parody. It'll be fine.
Yeah. So I think that wraps it up for the movies, unless you have anything else to say.
I think this is probably the most I've spent thinking about Godzilla 98 in a long time, and
me too.
It's fun to revisit.
Mm-hmm. For various reasons.
Yeah.
So I think we'll finish off the talk with just some action figure conversations.
Sounds good. I know a lot of that got sprinkled in throughout the whole podcast here. So
yeah. Well, first I think we'll talk about some upcoming ones. Batman 89 has been getting a lot of love recently.
It has. I'm excited. I don't know why the resurgence, but I'm happy about it.
Me too. For those who don't know, Mezco Toys has announced a few months back. I think they showed it at SDCC last year, or maybe New York Comic Con.
I know it's been kicking around, yeah.
Yeah, and Original Pictures did not do it any favors. And it might have been like a month and a half ago or something where they finally solicited the photos and put it up for pre-order, and it looks pretty good.
Yeah, I wasn't really all that impressed with it. Like you say, like initial impressions were like, well, I'm going to need to see
more photos
under better lighting and better pictures and stuff, because right now all we had to go by was people's kind of like photos of the figure on display.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, honestly, it sold me when I saw the pre-order go up. I did actually get in the pre-order because it just happened to be listed right when I was on break at work. So Mezco is notoriously like difficult to get in their website and all this stuff. Like if you're trying to pre-order a figure, and I just happened to get lucky. I'm like, if I don't make it, fine, I don't care. But if I do, great, that's fine too. And I just got in, and I was like, wow, okay, that was easy. And then, an hour later, I look and everybody's mad that they didn't get it.
Well,
but
for anyone wanting it, you can on the Mezco site still pre-order it. I'm looking at it right now.
Nice.
the one thing that turned me off, I was like, okay, it's gonna be $80, maybe 85, maybe 90. I'm fine with that. It's my favorite suit, favorite Batman, favorite actor, whatever. And then I saw the 110, and I was like, God damn it. Actually, I saw the 150 on Big Bad, and
Oh yeah, okay.
that was the first time I saw it, and I was like, I don't know, probably not. And then I think 3 days ago, a while ago, maybe last week, SH Figure Arts teased the 89.
I'm excited, but I'm wary because I know how SH Figure Arts likes to do their capes. And
Yeah,
this Batman, in his 89 costume, the cape basically is more of a cloak. Like it drapes over his shoulders a lot of the time.
Mezco will,
And I'm
will
like,
do a good job with that.
yeah, like they're trying some different stuff with their body type too, from what I understand, Mezco. So, I mean, I'm curious about it. So, like, I guess I'll see when everybody else sees like kind of the final product. But this Figure Arts, I'm cautiously optimistic. Like, I hope that it's something that I can eventually get and be happy with. But at the same time, like, I don't know. They've done Batman previously, and it's always had like kind of a weird plastic cape or something about it didn't quite sit right.
The first one they did was the Injustice version, I believe, and that one was
Yeah.
just a solid 3-piece cape that they're notorious for. The sculpt looked good, and I liked the way it looked, but the cape, not really. And then the next one they made was the Dark Knight version, and I have that. It's behind me, falling over. But the cape works well. I don't know if you know this, but the wiring isn't just like an unbent paper clip. It's a flat piece of metal, and so that keeps it for the cape from like slipping or looking weird, but it also prevents it from bending in a certain way. So it can bend like flat side, but it can't bend like widthwise.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know what you mean.
So I don't have the Justice League version, although I have seen it, and the part that turned me off from that was the height. It was too short.
I remember people, kind of saying that when that figure first came out. That was their biggest kind of issue with it, and why I think a lot of people went for the Mafex version over the Figure Arts.
And then the ankle articulation too. Like it was just a barbell, and it didn't have the normal ball joint that Figure Arts has, and it didn't have any ankle pivot, which side tangent is the most, for me, like the most important joint you can have, because if I'm animating and my character can't like do a ankle pivot or a good ankle pivot, then go to hell.
I mean, I don't know how much action figure creators have to do with like competitive sports, but like Martial Arts 101 dictates that everything is in your stance.
Yeah.
And if you can't stand, like that's the Goro, prime example. Like he's an awesome figure from the knees up, but those ankles, like that's kind of a sticking point for that figure in particular.
Are they just loose, or are they like immovable?
Well, they're not very movable at all. Like
Okay.
through animating the figure, I've gotten him kind of like loosened up a little bit to the point where he does cover a little bit more of a stance. But for the most part, like he's only going to stand kind of straight upright, and you're not going to get much forward and back, and not a lot of like pivot.
That sucks, because that figure looks real good.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, if you're just going to stand him upright, he's really impressive. But let's say when I was animating him, there was a lot of times where like he was on a stand that I got out of frame or changed out.
Yeah. So, and then the next Batman, to get back on the Batman train, the next Batman Figure Arts was that like Ninja Batman.
From the anime.
Yeah, that's a new take on it, which I'm all for new takes, but it didn't do it for me personally.
I don't think I own any Figure Arts Batman figures. I've seen the Injustice one. And I like the design, but like I said, the cape, and like
Mm-hmm.
kind of what you were saying too, it's like just a standard 3-piece cape.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I preferred the Superman figure in that line, but I just never picked it up because of the same kind of quarrels I had with it.
Yeah.
So I mean, I know Mafex has done a couple really nice ones. I have their first Dark Knight Rises, I believe, Batman, and that had some issues, but mine still holds up, and I know they've done better versions
Mm-hmm.
since. Um, but yeah, like the one thing other companies have always done is like the cloth cape,
Mm-hmm.
and recently they've done like the wired capes and stuff too. So that's just kind of what I'm waiting to see what Figure Arts does,
Mm-hmm.
unless they do like pre-posed capes that you pop the head off and pop it back on
Uh,
over top of like a sweeping cape motion or like a spread wing cape type thing. I don't know.
that would just be awful because then it would most likely be plastic, and if it takes a shelf dive, ugh,
Yeah.
ugh.
At this point, like if that was the direction they were going, they'd be better off doing Batman Returns, where he has that big glider thing that folds out, because at
Yeah.
least that lends itself to be that kind of plastic.
Or Batman Beyond.
Well, Batman Beyond too, but I'm thinking like Michael Keaton Batman Returns, where he
Oh,
like folds
okay.
out the cape. It's like that
Yeah,
glider thing.
yeah, yeah. Okay, I totally forgot about that. I was thinking, um, Batman Beyond with the like little whatever wings.
Yeah, almost like that membrane, like red wing thing he has.
Yeah. So I this kind of feels a bit like the NECA or Monster Arts argument for me. It's like I don't have any Mezco, so I don't have anything to go off of, but I do have a Figuarts, and I know what it's like, and I like it. But do I go both, or do I go one or the other? Because that's the same thing like with the NECA GMK when they were both released or announced within like 2 weeks of each other. Like I was like,
Yeah.
God dang it, because there's the cheap one which looked fine. I hesitate to say fine, and then
Yeah.
there was the $80 one that looked amazing. I have the $80 one, but
Yeah, me too.
but it kind of feels the same, the cheaper one or the more likely cheaper one, versus that I have experience with, or the one that I'll have to take a leap of faith on.
That's the thing. Like, I mean, this new with the Mezco, they're doing totally different things with it. So
Mm-hmm.
as far as I understand, it's going to be kind of like a seamless body type,
Yeah.
which the only thing I can compare it to is like there's this company that does just like standard bodies, and you put the heads on and do whatever you want. But
Mm-hmm.
like I guess the bodies are like almost a metal endoskeleton inside of like a posable like rubbery type figure.
Yeah. I've
And
seen
so
those. Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, I guess this is going to kind of go by that. And I don't have any experience with figures like that, so I don't know how this is going to work. The one thing that I do know consistently has kind of been the case is that Mezco figures appreciate in value. So if I hate it, I'll sit on it for a year and sell it
Uh huh.
and probably make more than my money back.
Yeah, I think in your last Between the Frames that you just posted yesterday, which people should go check out.
Oh, please do. Yeah. Come one, come all.
You mentioned that you got a Mezco Batman for like $20, and I remember you talking about this on the Captain's Log. And when you said that, I was like, absolutely no way that's possible, no way. And then you're like, yeah, here's the receipt.
Yeah. That's the
And
thing. I've done enough internet like videos and things to be like, people it's like you're not telling me the truth. Like
uh-huh,
at this, I mean, on the one hand, I mean, I could see people's disbelief, but on the other hand, I'm like, why would? First of all, who am I to even lie to anybody?
true.
I, and second, like, why would I? Like, if I
Mm-hmm.
pay, like, I've gone on record paying way too much for dumb things. So like, this is not something I'm prepared to really like be dishonest about. But
uh-huh.
yeah, that was a Black Friday deal, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, I gotta I gotta do it for $20. I know the figure is gonna be worth it.
I've at several comic shops. I've seen like the Iron Man they did a few months back, and then Ascending, Sovereign, the brown costume Wolverine, and then I think the Freddy.
Yeah, the Freddy that came out pretty recently, I think.
Yeah, I've seen those in comic shops, and they didn't upsell those, which is weird because the Storm figures, the Ken and Ryu, the normal versions, those
Mhm.
were like 150 a pop, but then
Oh wow.
the Mezco were 80, $85, and I was like, oh, that's odd. So, you know.
The place that I wound up getting Magneto from that was having like the half off sale
Mm-hmm.
because they had Storm figures, they had like Sideshow, like the 12-inch Star Wars stuff.
Uh huh.
Um, but like the prices on the Mezcos were just retail price, which I thought was great, which is why I was able to get Magneto for pretty cheap.
Mm-hmm.
They did, I don't know if it's the same Iron Man, but they had the previews Iron Man, the blue stealth armor one,
Yeah, I think it's just the same sculpt.
which I really like, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I couldn't justify even that half price. I was like, well, I don't really need it. I'm not going to do anything with it, etc. But the
Mm-hmm.
Storm figures they had were like the Ryu and Ken. They weren't quite as expensive as you were saying, but they were like 100 a piece. I'm like,
Nah.
I don't get it. Like you can get them for 70 or 75 or something. They
Mm-hmm.
had the battle dress Chun-Li for
Mm-hmm.
100, but I mean that I'm like, well, that's a New York Comic Con thing, so I
Makes
could see
sense.
that maybe, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
Ermac on Big Bad, he's a New York Comic Con exclusive, and he on Big Bad normally he's like $90, but he was on sale, and I was like, he's red, favorite color, might as well. So I got him for like $60, which is really
that's
good.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's actually cheaper than I think what I got them for from Comic Con. So
haha.
yeah,
But that that's the like blind leap of faith I have to take with Mezco though. Don't have a Mezco. Have Figure Arts Batman, so I know what could happen. I just need to take the leap, go with what's familiar, or just skip it all altogether, which I don't want to do because 89 is my favorite suit and Batman and movie and all that. So
yeah,
it's something that if I miss out, I'll be sad for a week and then move on. But oh well.
yeah. I mean, I'm going all in with the Mezco just because I know if I don't like it, somebody else will, and they'll pay at least what I paid. So
Uh huh.
I'm not out anything if I don't like the figure.
Uh huh.
Whereas Figure Arts could go either way. Like Figure Arts, I know the Ninja Turtles they released are like half price now, and you can pretty much find them anywhere because people just didn't get on board with it.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the risk I run with this Batman.
Mm-hmm.
But again, with this one, we've only seen I think the teaser image, so like I have
Yeah.
to see what the figure looks like before I really commit.
Yeah. It's just the chin and half of the logo, and it says
Mm,
coming soon.
that's right.
So, uh, well, keeping on track with Bandai, but going to Dragon Ball Z. How about that giant ape Vegeta?
That looks crazy. Like I know that will be in this apartment at some point. I'm hoping that's one that my roommate just decides he wants, so I don't have to spend that money. But I mean, the way they did it is great.
Oh
I
yeah.
know it's not. I know it's not like to perfect scale with the figures because then the thing would be like probably 4 feet tall or something. But it's big enough. It's imposing enough that it will look awesome in a display.
Yeah. So you can see this, right?
Yeah, the 84.
Yeah. So this
Oh,
is
that's cool.
approximately the size of the Vegeta. This is a little bit bigger than a Figure Arts, maybe to his like bicep.
Yeah.
I think that's where Vegeta stands at least.
Hmm.
Like, I'm probably not gonna get it, but I just have nowhere to put it. But it's like, oh, something fell. It's I'm just thinking of the scale, like how, why, when, where, why.
Yeah. Like I know it comes with like a hand that like Goku is in,
Which
so it
looks
kind of
awesome.
yeah, it has its own scale built in. But if you want to display it with your Figure Arts, yeah, it's going to be on the small side, but you can still, like I say, it's still going to be
Hmm.
impressive enough in the display to warrant I think, picking up. Um,
Only picking
yeah,
up and not playing.
yeah, just look at it.
And then it's got a little Yajirobe with the
Oh
sword,
yeah, yeah.
which looks cool. Yajirobe isn't my favorite character ever. I don't think he's really anyone's favorite character.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like you forget early Dragon Ball Z, like just how much the old characters like mattered to the plot.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize. I mean, how was it like? I was playing the Kakarot game, which came out like a month or 2 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
and like it takes you through the exact story of the TV series. So like I'm going back and remembering all this stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. These characters like were kind of important once upon a time.
Does Kakarot only go through Dragon Ball Z, or does it also go through Dragon Ball?
It starts with Dragon Ball Z. I don't
Okay.
know if it goes beyond Super or the end of Z. I'm not entirely sure. Like I've only
Okay.
made it to I'm at the point where you're fighting Cell now.
Okay. Don't spoil anything. I'm not there
Right. Okay.
yet. But yeah, that Great Ape figure looks really imposing and intimidating. And when I read that it had die-cast joints or something, or like
I can see
biceps or
that.
something, it's like, oh, they're really like going all out on this.
I wonder if that's to like weigh it down to like make it not so like wobbly. Maybe I don't know. Like that's another thing where like you got to get the balance right on something like that.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know how Storm did something like Zangief. Um, like he's the really big guy with the chest hair, right?
Zangief, yeah,
Okay.
he's a very stocky figure and he's very heavy,
Mm-hmm.
but it works because his legs are massive,
Okay.
so it can hold up his big upper body and his arms and everything. And I mean, I've never had him like fall over or anything.
Okay. So I don't think Vegeta is exactly like that, but since he has metal joints, which are generally more reliable than plastic, I think it might work, but you'll have to excuse me, you'll have to let me know on that.
I'll be the guinea pig.
Yeah, please. So, what else has been? Oh, have you seen the Monster Arts Monster Hunter thing that they?
I saw. I think it was. I saw that it was like mentioned or announced, but I'm not familiar enough with Monster Hunter to really know like what to look out for.
Yeah, me neither.
I mean, I think it's cool that Monster Arts is doing something like to keep itself besides just the Godzilla license.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know for a time they had Alien and Predator, and that didn't really take off. So,
And they have Gamera, and one of them was two of them have been pretty good, and then one of them was a pretty big bomb.
oh, really?
Yeah, the 99, the second one they did, the body was fine, but the head looked off. It didn't look like the movie, and paint got to it, like a bad paint job. The lower gum, like where the teeth was just one solid brick of bone color,
Oh, okay.
and then the eyes were just wacky. But yeah, it's kind of like you said, they're branching out, which is good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see how deep they go. Like I said, I don't know much about Monster Hunter, so like it's going to be kind of if I continue hearing about the license, I'll be like, oh, I guess people are happy with it and people are supporting the line.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm hoping this gives them some money to like go back and, like I say, repaint Biolante or something. Like you'd think that'd be a cash grab for them, so
Mm-hmm.
do it.
Yeah.
Get your resources up.
So I was just reminded of this. Figu Figuarts is doing the Toei Spider-Man, the Japanese Spider-Man.
Oh, that's right. I just saw this yesterday.
When I saw that, I was like, "That's gotta be fake. That's gotta be an edit or like a Photoshop." But no, it's a happening.
That's how they're doing it. They must really be into this like this idea of like the Spider-Verse. They're like, we're going to fill out every Spider-Man we can,
Mm-hmm.
and people will buy it. And people will buy it, which is like they know Spider-Man is a very fan favorite character and is very safe to release a figure of because somebody out there will want it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just looking at Daredevil 19 on Instagram, and I'm
Yeah.
looking at I'm looking at the promo images, and it's got like a rope instead of web-looking things.
Making it accurate.
Yeah, and then it's got like a canopy web. I'm gonna see if I can show it on the audience won't see it, but like I don't know if you can.
Oh, like an actual like web like net type thing.
Yeah, and then it's got like a rope uh instead of a web. So I will not get it because I have no attachment to it, and
Yeah, I'll skip that one as well, I think.
and I'm interested to see what they do with it because I've seen a couple clips of that show and it looks bonkers.
Yeah, I think they just kind of reinvented their own continuity with that show, and like we're just gonna do whatever we want, basically.
Definitely, that I'm excited for those who want to get it. So
Yeah, I mean, I would have never just like a couple days ago, I would have never imagined that anyone would release that, and here we are.
mm-hmm. So what else has been announced? Storm has been pretty dormant recently.
Yeah, I mean, they got one or two Mortal Kombat things coming that I want. So like, there's a new Raiden coming.
Oh yeah.
They showed Motaro as like a prototype.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited about that whenever that happens, which probably won't be for a while.
Oh, and then the Injustice line. They Bane has been released, I'm pretty sure.
Yes, Bane I think is out, and well, I know he's out. I think he's the only one right now. There's pre-orders up for some of the other, or I don't even know if it's pre-orders, but I know that some of the other ones are
Darkseid,
like,
Doomsday, and Lobo, I think.
yes, and there was a Superman they showed at New York Comic Con,
Mm-hmm.
and recently a Batman was shown at Toy Fair, I think in a prototype.
Yeah, it didn't have.
Setting.
It said pending licensors approval, and it didn't even have
Yeah.
a bat symbol on it, which I thought was
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Like to me, that was incomplete. I think, but like the villains of the set look really cool. Like
oh yeah.
Doomsday, I think looks great.
Mm-hmm.
Bane, from what I've seen, if you got him stood straight up, he kind of looks strange. But if you actually pose him, he looks really nice.
That running photo they had of him looked weird too.
I can't remember specifically, but I believe it.
Yeah, but Storm is really good at doing like really bulky, muscular characters, like the Lobo, the Bane, and Doomsday, especially Doomsday, look fantastic.
Yeah, Doomsday is definitely, to me, that's the standout of the line so far.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious to see where they go with it, because Injustice, the problem with Injustice is there was a lot of character designs in the game that I didn't really care for. So
Really?
like, while I like Bane, but I don't have much attachment to that version of Bane, so I'm going to skip that figure in particular.
So you like the Batman and Robin version better, I see.
That's what I was hoping. Yeah, give me, if that $100 Bane comes out, yeah, that's what I'll buy. But yeah, like the version of Superman they did, I do think looks pretty nice. So we'll see about that one. But like Doomsday, there's not much you could do to mess up Doomsday. That pretty much, yeah, it's Injustice style, but it also
there's really
looks
one
like
design for Bane. You can't do much with it. It's not like the Batman suit.
Yeah. So Doomsday, like he to me looks the best. I think that's a cool one.
Mm-hmm. One thing I kind of want, this probably won't happen, but I want Storm to do like roided out Dragon Ball Z characters, like Goku when he's like doing the Kaioken, and you like see him get like bigger and bigger. And,
super bulky, yeah.
Yeah, and then Nappa too when he like is in the fur trunks. Like they could just remodel the Zangief figure.
It would work, yeah. That body type they've already done, so like they know how to do it.
Mm-hmm. And then Final Form Frieza, where he's got like the missing tail, like he is like roided out and
super, yeah, buff.
Yeah, and I think that would be a really good candidate, but I don't think it'll ever happen. So might as well stop my fantasizing.
Bandai has locked those in. They're
Yeah,
like, nah.
actually though. But those would be kind of cool. I probably wouldn't get them, but it'd be nice to see because I think Storm would knock them out of the park, and even Great Ape. I think they would do really good with that too.
Yeah, that would actually be something to see.
I think they would probably
They could.
do a tiny bit better job than Bandai, but that's just me.
I'm still waiting to see like how Bandai's turns out and be like, well, okay, this is the first of its kind, so let's hope for the best.
Hope for the best is kind of all we can do right now because this is uncharted territory for Bandai.
Yeah, I mean, there's that between that and like the figure arts Batman. I'm keeping my optimism up. We'll hope. I'm just like, the worst these could do is just be passes from me.
See what I want from Bandai too. I'm kind of going into what I would like. If you want to name some figures that you want, I already know Storm
Sure.
Hagar.
Yeah, number one.
Yeah. I want Bandai to release a Monster Arts 04 Final Wars figure because that's my favorite suit, and then do what they did with the Super X2 and Super X3 where they had a separate buildings and then jets and tanks or atomic breaths, but have the Gotengo.
Oh, okay, that could be cool.
Because I have the Bandai, it's like an 8-inch scale, and I love it. It's one of my favorite things in my collection, which is kind of odd because it's just a metal lump.
It's like a ship, yeah.
Yeah, but I think Bandai could do it Monster Arts style. I mean, there is no difference, but I would love that because that would be super cool.
That'd be the type of thing where realistically they would release the Final Wars Godzilla and then wait a year and re-release it again with the Gotengo as an accessory to make you buy two.
I would hate that.
Yeah, that's what they do. I hate them for it.
Well, I mean,
but
in like 2014, or when they released the Birth version, they like a month later released the those like weapons packs with the planes and the buildings. And the Birth version is supposed to be Junior at the end of Destroya, and they try to tie it in with the Super X3. So that worked, and they were only like 2 months apart, I think. So
I remember those, the tanks and the building sets and stuff that they.
Yeah, that.
Surprised that was all they did. Actually, I would have thought that would be like something they could continue just kind of releasing little by little, and people would just keep buying them.
Well, what I would have loved is if they like did a Tokyo Tower, like sort of like a Build-A-Figure, where you'd buy like different figures, maybe like a Tokyo SOS line, because it gets destroyed. The Tokyo Tower gets destroyed. They could do like a Godzilla comes with like the base. Mechagodzilla gets reissued, comes with like the top of the spire, and then Mothra with their twins or the larvae.
Yeah.
They could take that burnout ink. I said larva correctly. Sorry. But the larva would come with like the observation deck, and then Mothra would come with like an alternate piece to have the tower like bent over where it got destroyed or something.
Yeah, like damaged.
Yeah. But that would just be a lot of planning and too much, I think. So.
Yeah, they seem to like their standalone releases, and while it would invite people who wouldn't ordinarily buy a third figure in the line to like buy it just so they can complete something, like I don't know. Like the Build-A-Figure concept, it's bad enough with like Marvel Legends where there's like one or two in the line that I just don't want, but I need somebody's arms or head or something, and I'm like, well, all right, here we go.
I remember the Between the Frames, I think it was, where you come back and you're like, did you ever hate yourself and love yourself at the same time? Well, I just got the Deadpool wave.
Yeah, I mean that was a deal too. Like it was that GameStop bag sale they were having, so I was like, well, look, at least I paid like 25% less, and it turned out I really liked the Build-A-Figure, so like it was kind of a win. But yeah, it was just like I didn't plan on doing that day. And you know, that's that's what I do to myself.
Hey, we all gotta take therapy somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
um, so aside from a storm Hagar, what would you want?
Well, as I look at Godzilla stuff, I mean, I never got the larva set from Mothra and Batra.
Mm-hmm.
I actually don't have any Batra, which is another thing that it would be cool if they did kind of a similar re-release the way they did Mothra
Mm-hmm.
with the Batra like full grown and the larva. It would be kind of cool.
They did that.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they did the Mothra or the butterfly forms as a nighttime
Yeah.
paint scheme, but and then with Batra they gave the larva a beam effect from the horn.
Wow, I totally missed it then. Damn. All right.
Yeah, the Mothra and the Batra set were not released in the U.S. from by Bluefin,
Hmm. Okay.
so
Maybe that's why I never. That might be why I missed it then.
yeah, a lot of people missed it. It was just like a Japan exclusive, which stinks. But you know, yeah, that happened a while ago. Actually, I think 2 years
Okay.
ago.
Well, I mean, I guess this changes nothing about me wanting the larvas, like the larvae, the worms. I want the worms. The Mothra, like the if you could do the twin ones,
The
like that'd be
turds
cool. Like, yes, exactly. Give them like a little like web spray attack or something, and just call it a day.
just
I
re-release the larva set.
exactly just have like two of them be identical in the set and
Mm-hmm.
be done with it. Like I'd buy that because I missed the original ones. And let's see, as far as other like, I mean, I want my sillier '70s monsters too. So I want an old
Megalon.
a Megalon. I want an old Gigan. Like the Final Wars Gigan is cool, but like to me that's not Gigan. You know, like I picture a big stupid parrot Gigan as like in my head. It'd be cool if they did some kind of like radial chest effect, so it looked like the buzzsaw was actually moving.
That's like
Like
a storm collectibles almost effect.
yeah, like they do like kind of those motion blurring type effects where like
Mm-hmm.
it looks like the figure's in like
Motion.
mid movement. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Jet Jaguar would be awesome.
It seems like that's such a like it's a no brainer because they do all those Ultraman figures too, and
Yeah.
how different would Jet Jaguar be? Like
I was about to say they've been doing those um, uh, Ultraman figures, and they're pretty good. I don't have any, but I've seen people like, and I've seen them in person, and they look really good. So I don't know why they're not doing Jet Jaguar because they could just use the same body mold or the
yeah,
same body type, and then just change the mold up.
yeah. I mean, he could, in theory, you could include like I don't know, like little static, smaller versions of him that progressively get larger, so you could display him doing like his growth
Mm-hmm.
cycle and all this. Like
Have a
there's like little stuff you could do to make it interesting.
have a replacement head that has the fins that come out, or
A little antenna type thing
yeah,
that yeah pop out. Yeah,
or
something like that.
or like
Cool.
a flight version. Sort of, Reveltech did this with their old Gamera figures, where they came with smaller flying versions of Gamera. So maybe they could do that with Jet Jaguar.
Could be cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know realistically it's kind of a reach for some of these, but like more I think more reasonably it would be like a '70s Godzilla to pair with the Mecha Godzilla they did.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like kind of as bigger, like more pronounced eyebrows and kind of like wider face, like that version of Godzilla that
Then like a
I think
cleft
would
lip or something.
yeah, I think it would make for a cool looking figure.
Mhm.
And you know, people have that Mecha Godzilla with the big lightning bolt thing and the you know, all whatever it came with him back then. So
Mhm.
I don't know, just something to pair with him.
See, what I don't know why they haven't done this. Um, Showa Ghidorah. I know there was that bootleg that came out at the same time the 2019 one came out, but I don't know why they haven't done a Showa Ghidorah because that would seem like a perfect fit.
Yeah, I mean that the bootleg one actually looks pretty good.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people have like done it up even better with like some custom paint and
Mhm.
everything. Like it seems like it'd be, as you said, kind of a no-brainer for anybody that wants a more classic Ghidorah that missed maybe the versions that are out now.
Mhm.
and like it would fit in well with any collection, really.
Mm-hmm. But they just need to build up that Showa line.
Yeah, like we've gotten a couple versions of Godzilla and the one Mecha Godzilla, and I think that's basically it, right?
Yeah, all they've done is the 54, 64, 62, and Mechagodzilla.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, wow. Okay. They're definitely lacking on.
anything
I mean, I would think,
anything except Heisei, they're lacking.
yeah, I would think like a lot of the standout Godzilla characters are in that like series very prominently. So like we still have not gotten an Anguirus like 7 years into the line for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
A standard Rodan, like
Yeah.
the King of the Monsters one we've gotten and the Fire one we've got, but like
Mm-hmm.
just a regular
Brown.
Rodan, it stands the same height as Godzilla with the big wings and everything. Like that could be, I don't know. I think a lot of people would go for that.
Mm-hmm. Well, my number one figure right now, at least one I can think of off the top of my head, would be a Mezco Captain Gordon from Final Wars.
Oh, okay.
Because I know people really like the Punisher cloak or raincoat thing that they made. So if they can just take the same jacket, put it on a body, almost like an Undertaker body, and have a sword, have a necklace with like a tooth on it. Man, I think that Mezco would knock it out of the park.
Just get that Mezco Don Fry license. Be like, just we need you to, like, we already have the Mike Tyson body. We'll just repurpose it, put on the clothes. You'll be good.
Yeah, you'll get 2%.
Yeah.
But
it's 2% more than he's getting now. So
yeah,
put it out there.
Mm-hmm. I think Mezco would do good with that. But other than that, I don't really have, aside from the Monster Arts Final Wars and Mezco Captain Gordon and maybe like SH Figuarts mutants from, not X-Men, from Final Wars.
Yeah.
With like the not someone's calling me, hang on. Not spandex, but it's sort of like a rubber look to it.
That battle armor type looking stuff that they wear when they go beat up the sea monster.
Yeah. With the like plastic armor on their shoulder and their chest. Oh man. I think Figuarts could do good with that. I think it would be too tight for Mezco.
Be an army builder too, so you'd have to buy like 3 or 4 of them to make it worthwhile.
Have it be like the Marvel Legends, like Hydra agents or Shield agents, where you can just pop on different heads and have it be a completely different character. So you could have like an Ozaki head, a Kazama head, whatever mutant head. I think that'd be fun.
You'd need the one. Was it the Exilian like bad guy with the eyebrows? Like I forget his name, but the one that screams about Zilla being blown up.
I knew that old tuna head wasn't up to much.
Yeah.
Next.
He's so angry, shouting into the heavens. Like
it is so over the top. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think those are kind of the figures I want, but they probably won't happen. So
yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat with figures that will never get released, even though I want them, and probably nobody else, but just me. But like,
we're the target audience. Pander to us,
please. Yeah, or send me just a one of a kind. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Well, I think that's everything that I had planned. If you have anything else you want to say.
Nothing much else I can think of. I mean, aside from 1 or 2 last figures I want would be like the 33 Kong. Give me a Figuarts or a Monster Arts of that. Or, that I'd happily also take a Monsterverse Kong too, which is probably a lot more likely. Mm-hmm. Like, just I would like a different version of Kong besides the Peter Jackson one, because just my own personal preference for the Kong movies, and because the Peter Jackson one is a great figure, but it doesn't look right with the other Monster Arts stuff just because of
It's
in
just
my
a
own
gorilla.
in my own head canon, it's not the right Kong, and so it shouldn't be there, you know. But like that's basically it, being such a Kong fan, that's what I want.
Well, I think that just about wraps it up. I think that was a pretty good episode of the KaiMoCast.
Yeah, it's a lot of discussion points. It was good stuff.
Yeah, we're hitting 3 hours in 10 seconds. Jesus.
I'm gonna need a cup of coffee, I think.
Yeah, I will. Well, thank you, Captain McKay, for coming on. If you guys don't follow him on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Is that what you got?
Yeah. So my YouTube is Captain McKay Random. That's where you'll find all the animation and the videos and stuff. Instagram is at Captain McKay. You'll see a lot of that there too. And Twitter is also at Captain McKay, but I can tell you the last time I've used my Twitter, so it's,
No one has.
makes no sense to bother with that. And yeah, so I'm easy to track down. I post interesting things from time to time. It's fun. If you like all the stuff that we've talked about here today, then I think some of the stuff I post will be right up your alley.
So yeah, Cap does really amazing animations on YouTube. He's done, if you're a Godzilla fan, you've probably seen these Godzilla Dimension War and Godzilla Aftermath. They're really great, and you should definitely check them out. And if you're a fan of like superheroes or wrestling, definitely check out his channel and his Instagram. Yeah, please finish your Mortal Kombat thing.
Will do.
And stay safe, man. These are weird times.
Yeah, you do the same. Take care of yourself if you can.
Yeah, stay safe, because I want that sequel to Aftermath.
I gotta just not perish before I can make it.
Do not die. Don't you dare think about dying. I want that sequel.
I think, yeah, you know what? I can make that happen. Like, if I have something to live for, then I'll stay with us. And this sequel has to happen. So
please,
it'll keep me around for a while.
Please let that happen. Well, thanks again, Cap, for coming on, and hopefully things work out with the captain's log, and I guess we'll see you around.
Sounds good. It was a good time. Thanks for having me.
Stay safe, man.
You too.
And that was Captain McKay. He, again, is a really great animator, and definitely check him out on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and like he said, Twitter if you want, but he rarely uses Twitter. Everything will be linked down below. Yeah, thanks for checking out this 3-hour long video. My God, I didn't expect this to last this long. It's just easy to go off on tangents when you're talking to someone who enjoys the same hobbies as you do. So thank you so much again to Captain McKay. Check him out on all his social medias. Keep a lookout for his Mortal Kombat project that he's got going on, and stay safe, everyone. These are weird times, so just stay safe. So until later, KaiMo Films out.